All right, it says we're live. Are we actually live?
Haven't got. I
I
have not gotten
Yeah,
a
you.
notification.
Are we live? It says we're live on my end, but they have one guy still counting down in the chat, so I don't know if we're actually live.
Ah, there we go.
All right, yeah. It's Jones Net. We went live at the right at the end of the countdown. It's perfect timing. Nice. All right, cool. All right, we're live. Hello, everyone. Can you hear us all? Can you hear me and
Hello.
Deox and Iron? Say something, everyone.
I can hear you. I had the stream up. I can hear it.
All right, cool.
Beautiful.
Alrighty.
It
So,
actually works.
yeah, we actually had a, based on the size of my YouTube channel, we actually have a kind of a large audience that was waiting, larger than normal. I think we had like 30 people waiting. That doesn't happen often, so it seems like people might actually be interested in this stream. That's kind of cool. And I see some people in the audience know what I'm going to be talking about.
I mean, the algorithm likes controversies, and that what they
The
say.
funny thing is like I don't feel like this is a controversy. Like
No, it's
this
really not.
really isn't that big of a deal. It's just really funny to me, but I guess we'll get into that. So oh, I see Toontone. I see Lope in the chat. Hello, Peppy. Did you get my message last night actually? I messaged you last night on Discord. I don't know if you got it or not, but I'll get back to you after the stream if you want. Oh, cool. Audio's perfect according to some of the people. All right, cool. Well, yeah, I guess we have a decent sized audience, so I guess we could start. So, Deox and Ironwolf, I don't know about you two, but it seems like a Christmas miracle has happened over the last several weeks. A real Christmas miracle in November, late October. Christmas came early this year. I think Majora might be laughing a little bit.
Most likely, yeah.
I think one of the pedestals might have fallen, or am I jumping the gun?
That is yet to be seen. We'll see how things
Yeah, I
play
don't
out in
want
the
to
long
jump the
run.
gun, but for those in the audience that are not aware, for I want to say about 3 weeks now, almost a month, there's just been kind of a growing number of videos related to Zelda, more specifically the new Zelda game, where people are just kind of like ranting or kind of pointing out that it kind of sucks, and it's more specifically centered around the lore of the game or the quote unquote story. I put in air quotes. Um, which I never expected to happen. Well, I did, just not this soon. But I'm just really amused by some of the things these videos are saying because I predicted all of it on a live stream about 4 years ago. I
You did,
predicted a
yeah.
lot of the things they're saying. I said, I said, yeah, Deox, you were on the stream with me about 4 years ago. I
Yep.
said, I'm not sure which stream it is, but one of the live streams with you, I said to the audience, like, I can guarantee you in the new game, the Guardians are just going to be gone with no explanation. They're just going to be gone. Just completely gone. No explanation at all. I said, the champions are probably barely going to be mentioned, and it's barely even going to be a sequel at all. It's going to be like its own thing.
I do remember you saying that.
Yep, I said it on a live stream. It's on my YouTube channel somewhere. So,
I
so
think I
I'm
think
just. You
I
think
think a
what?
lot of the frustration is the fact that it's not. It's like the first stream we had about it is that it's just somewhere in between, right? A sequel and its own thing. It doesn't really commit to either one. And I think that's why a lot of people are frustrated because at least if they committed to the fact that they did not really follow up on the plot threads and everything from the first game, I think people would be more okay with it. Ironically, because at least they're like, okay, that makes sense, right? But they're kind of trying to do both, which
See,
I feel is way more awkward.
Under
It is very awkward.
under normal circumstances, I think it would be fine for people to just be like kind of frustrated or what the hell's going on. My problem is like this is Zelda. This is not unusual. What like I'm not like I'm not like a supernatural prophet and I predicted all of it. Like not because I know how I know how they make these games. Like I even joked when the game came out. I'm like, oh, the Zonai. Guess what? They're just gonna be gone in the next game. They're not even gonna get mentioned. They're gone. It's like they introduce new shit and then they just get rid of it in the next game.
Yeah.
Because that's how they how many revolving door sky civilizations have we had in Zelda now? Like we have the Zonai, we have the Oka, we have the Wind Tribe, the Sky. Like it's just a revolving door of ancient godlike sky civilizations that created Hyrule. It's like what were people expecting? Like all the signs were here years ago. Like why now? Like I guess my question is why now? Like why all of a sudden is everyone just like realizing this when I realized it like 10 years ago?
No, I think it's more the fact that, well, besides Majora's Mask, and then you have Phantom Hourglass, which were like, I not really Spirit Tracks, but Phantom Hourglass and Majora's Mask, we don't really. It's kind of first to have such a direct sequel that takes place in the same area.
Yeah.
And I guess people that built up an expectation of what they would do, because it's logical that you would follow up on the previous game if you have the same setting, right? And the same character, the cast of characters. It just makes sense.
Yep.
So I feel like a lot of it is expectations. And I'm guilty of this myself because I expected it. I still think they did commit to some things. It's odd that they didn't fully commit to it. Right? Like how
I don't think it's odd though.
I do think it's odd because
any other company I would agree, but this is Nintendo. Like
I would be less surprised if they just pretended the game didn't happen at all. The previous one, that is.
They kind of did.
They do and they do not, because a lot of
it's very wishy-washy.
Yeah, they do recognize the first game, and they also explicitly refer to things that did happen in the previous games in the main story. But then you have other things, right, that doesn't really it isn't really explained, like the fact that and I've seen people like reach explanations for it. But we have the interview that kind of state that they did this intentionally. It's not really an in-universe explanation of why it's like that. It's more the fact that they were concerned that having every character and every plot thread be followed up in the sequel would confuse people who did not play the first game. This was something on their mind.
Yeah, well,
like,
they've said that. They flat out said that.
This is something I feel like we've talked about a lot.
This, which is why I'm amused, because a lot of these things, me and Deox and you, we've mentioned, and it's just really weird that like no one else seems to have like noticed this until now. It's like were you guys like just blind? And I have my beliefs as to why it's been like that for why now, but anyway, sorry, I'll let you guys go. I'll let you guys talk.
So just following. Because I personally think that it's, and I mentioned this to you when I talked about my thoughts on the game. Like I think it's strange. Like that's everything. Like to me, it doesn't make sense. Even you could say, "Oh, it's Nintendo," but no, it doesn't. I wouldn't even say that. Like even works. Like it doesn't even really explain anything because it's kind of illogical. Like I would be. Again, I would find it more likely that they would just not acknowledge the existence of the previous game at all, or less so than what they're doing. But you have large chunks of the main story that is acknowledging it, but then you have other parts of it that doesn't really acknowledge it at all. Like a big example of that is the Terrytown stuff, right? So certain characters in that quest line does not recognize Link, but they were integral to the side quest in Breath of the Wild. So it doesn't make sense that some of them would know him and some
of them wouldn't. Yeah,
it's kind of odd.
Same thing with the people in Hatino.
Exactly right. It's kind of odd, and stuff like that just is confusing. Like, why didn't they commit to it? Like, I'm not saying I think it's fine that not every single character from the first game remembers Link, right? That's fine, I guess. You could. I mean, Elder Scrolls kind of does the thing that not every side quest necessarily is canon, right? Or if they are canon, but they did not happen in the way that you play the events, right? So I can see that. I feel like that. So a lot of games they do that in a sequel where not every single side quest was canon in the actual story, right?
Yeah.
That is not uncommon. So that's kind of what I was expecting they would do because
I
that makes sense.
I will admit I was like a few years ago when I was saying all this stuff, I never would have predicted that like characters that met Link wouldn't know who he is, but I was dead certain years ago that the game would act almost as if Breath of the Wild never happened. Or it was just like kind of forgotten and it's just moved on from it. I was dead certain the first one's barely gonna come up in it at all. But I do I will at least concede that it is kind of strange that people who met and knew Link in the first game like don't even seem to know who the fuck he is in the second one.
Especially the Terraton quest line because the
Yeah,
first like those
it is
initial
really
characters
funny.
lead into the finale of that quest line, which it doesn't make sense. Like I can't even wrap around my head how the events like you'd have to do some pretty gnarly mental gymnastics to kind of explain why. Like it doesn't. Again, it's illogical. Like why didn't they just commit to that? Those characters remembering the
My
events of the
thinking
first
is
game.
they did it on purpose. The question I guess is why? Like just to fuck
I
around with people?
I I I don't know for sure. I still believe this game was in development hell, and I
Oh,
think
I agree with you. I mean, I've already told you that like many
yeah,
times. Yeah, I think the first one was in development hell. I think I think there was some kind of drama that we'll never know about that happened behind the scenes with Breath of the Wild too. Like I just I'm not like a super pro, but like I've worked on games. I've worked briefly, but I worked in the industry, and I can tell when there was shit going on behind the scenes with the game. And Breath of the Wild, that everything about that game screams over budget, running out of money, running out of time, drama behind the scenes, get this out now.
yeah, smoke
Everything
creep.
about that game just screams that to me. Something happened behind the scenes during the development of that game that we'll never know about because Nintendo, they operate like a top secret weapons development manufacturer.
I feel like it's. I think it's even more. I think it's even more obvious in Tears of the Kingdom because
Yeah.
I feel like
Well, you also have COVID to,
yeah,
to add on
yeah.
top of that for
I
the
I
sequel.
I know this happens in a lot of games, and I feel like and this is how you avoid this happening, right? If you have like the game is huge, right? So there's a ton of dialogue, there's an absolutely shit ton of stuff, um, and in order to keep that cohesive and have some sort of structure, you need good management, right? I,
Yeah.
I I don't think this game had good management. Like I'm in the terms of I'm getting the feeling that there were a lot of people working on stuff, but they didn't really have directions, and some stuff
Yeah, it
doesn't
was
really mesh
a
with
lack of
everything.
direction, lack of
Yes, thank you.
communication maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Like medieval too.
Because and that does make sense because we know for a fact that Nintendo Japan, but especially Nintendo, were kind of struggling to transition to work from home during the pandemic, and because again, Japan is not really a work from home culture. Like it was said that a lot of Japanese companies had to provide computers for the workers, not because it's their work or whatever. They did not have computers at home that they could work with.
Yeah.
Like that is so alien, right? How many developers do you know, like in America, that don't have a good enough rig at home to work, right?
Yeah, that's yeah.
That
That's
is
that
weird.
yeah.
It is very weird.
But it's because they have such an in-house office culture, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're supposed to go to the office and work, and that's what you do. So and I feel like a lot of Japanese companies did simply not have the structure or the experience to manage like a huge project like Tears of the Kingdom remotely. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Obviously, I don't have proof. It's just like a hunch
No, I do
based on
agree
like,
with you. I do agree with you that yeah, obviously the freaking the COVID madness probably had a negative impact on the game, but yeah, as I was saying, I do think there was behind the scenes problems going on even before COVID, like with the original game.
yeah,
There, if I were to, if I were to theorize, allow me to be a Zelda theorist for a sec. If I were to theorize, there was probably it was probably a case of someone somewhere of someone in a high rank was like, you know what, we need to like fucking make some kind of open world thing because that's popular right now. That's what the kids are into these days. And someone else who was relatively high up in the ranks was probably like, no, it's not what Zelda is. And there was probably a lot of headbutting between those two, or I don't know. Japanese business works a little bit differently than American business, but I think there was basically just I don't know how to phrase it. Like with Breath of the Wild, I really get the feeling that it's like they didn't have the experience or know what they were doing, and they were kind of just like really struggling to figure out how to get it to work, which is probably why they dug up Monolith and brought them on board because they did have some experience.
yeah. The thing is,
I
like,
really I really get the vibe that like, and I what I'm about to say is gonna sound like an insult to Breath of the Wild, and I don't mean it that way, but Breath of the Wild really feels like baby developers' first open world game.
yeah.
I don't know if that's controversial to say, but that's it. That's why like I'm so baffled that everyone's like, "Wow, this is like the peak of open world games." I'm like, have you played an open world game in the last 10 years? Like everything Breath of the Wild has been done way better, both before and since.
But I do also think, like, in terms of even that it has appeal that I can see that people like, right? And that's fine. I think a big reason why we are now seeing like a negative, like the Zelda Cycle, as they call it,
The Zelda Cycle.
Oh boy.
Is that I think the game had a really long development time, right?
Yeah.
Expectations were huge, and I feel like if the game came out in
like 2020 or 2019,
or even, I think people would be fine with it, right? But
yeah,
it's so many, like, I this is a problem I have, and I actually kind of I don't even dislike the game too much, but like I have a problem with this is the fact that you have the depths, right, and everyone was like, oh, this is super cool, everything, the underworld. It's just the map flipped.
Yep. Yep.
And
that's something all these people are pointing out too.
Yeah, you don't really realize in the beginning. I told you this, right? In the beginning, it's fine because you don't realize.
And then once you realize it, it's like, oh, the magic's gone.
Yes, it's completely gone. And you also realize that it's kind of devoid of a lot of content, right? It's really exciting in the first, I would say, 5 hours to 10 hours range. It's really cool. And then you start to see the cracks. And and again, I'm not a developer, but this is just as a consumer, I would say flipping the overworld in that way and not introducing enough stuff in it is unacceptable for that development time and the asking price.
Well, interestingly, one of the videos that I'm going to bring up today, they actually have a pretty interesting theory as to why the underground is the way it is. But sorry, I'll let you finish what you're saying.
Yeah, in terms of entertainment, and some of my friends call me a robot for calculating this, but I told you this before, Nev. I calculate my entertainment based on an hourly rate, right?
Yeah.
So if I make this amount, I know how much money I make in an hour of work, right? So if I am entertained for 1 hour and I assume that a cinema ticket, then I can divide costs X amount of money. I divide that by the length of the movie, and that I would say, and if it's a good movie, I've gotten my money's worth, and that's kind of what I do with games and everything.
Yeah.
So I would still say I got more than my money's worth for the game. That said, I still think it's not okay for the development time.
Yep. Yeah.
And again, you can talk about, they were struggling, and I understand that they probably had challenges facing it, but the longer you wait with the product, the higher the expectations will, become. Because people that don't understand game development usually will just equate time in development equals quality, right?
Yep.
A lot of people do this. You saw this with like Cyberpunk as well, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, oh, it
Yep.
has to be good. They've been working on this for
Almost a
X amount of
Oh,
decade.
years.
geez.
I think
Yeah,
Cyberpunk was almost a decade in development, I think.
I
It was
was
a long ass time.
yeah, I was starting to get sketched out with a lot. I tend my time frame for games is like if they took it took more than 5 years to make, I'm starting to be freak out a bit because I'm like, there's something that did not go right here. Like games are complicated to make, but they don't take that long. That's usually a
Unless you're
red flag.
me.
Yeah, unless you're you. But that's more like working on because yeah, you know what I mean, right? Because
Yeah,
you
I know
hear
what you
this
mean.
in
Like a big team of people. Yeah, it shouldn't take 10 years to make a game.
obviously I understand that it's super difficult and whatnot, but it's just experience. And also I have friends working in the industry, and I've been told that you have a you have a you have a development horizon, and that's usually a reasonable amount of time. These people that set these, because you have the internal launch, right, which is not set in stone until the higher ups are like, yeah, we're getting this out now. And the people that set these time schedules, they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they, they know what they're doing. So when they say we're gonna finish this project in X amount of years, it's probably a reasonable take, right? And I don't think whenever they sat down, starting work on this, they're like, yeah, it's gonna just 6 years. Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I'm definitely certain the higher ups wanted this game to come out in less time than 6 years. For sure, the higher ups definitely didn't want it to take that long. But yeah, the thing is, like, none of this stuff surprises me. And again, that's why I'm kind of doing this stream. I'm more so amused that like no one noticed until like 6 months after the game came out, because like I called it all before the game even came out. Like like before COVID was even a thing. I'm like, yeah, this is how the game's gonna be.
I also don't understand, like, I don't know. This is more of a bash at like the Zelda community
Yeah,
in
exactly. Like,
general.
yeah,
Um,
for those in the audience who are hoping that they listen to me rant about Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, I'm not going to. I don't really have anything else to say about them. Like, they're just kind of mediocre game. Like, they're not terrible. They're just kind of very standard, mediocre, like open world games that get the job done, and that's about it. Like, my hot take. I don't know. Like, that's my hot take.
No, I feel
but
like
I still feel Skyward Sword is way worse than both of them.
and
I
I
still
agree
think
with.
I still think both games have. I think this is maybe is what a lot of people catches. I do think they have soul, right? They do. I can see the passion in there. There's a lot of passion in there, especially in the art. A lot of the mediocre open world games, you don't really get that passion, right? You don't really feel it, and I do get that vibe with both those games. Presentation, right? That's something you can argue about, but the general vibe of it, I'm getting like the people that worked on this, maybe probably not everyone, but I assume a lot of people that did really enjoyed what they were doing, and
Yeah, I'm sure
so
the people making the games, they wanted to make something cool. Like, I don't think like an army of robots made it, but like, but yeah, but anyway, I guess what I was trying to get at is this stream is not really going to be about the games themselves. I kind of want to more so focus on like the way people are reacting all of a sudden, like kind of out of nowhere. It's really, and it seems really
Yeah,
sudden too, like all at the same time in the last several weeks.
my response is like, I don't know what people like expected, because it's like a lot of
Exactly.
these a lot of the people in the Zelda community, like, and this is something that really triggered me, is that there are so many people in the Zelda community, they're like, oh, Zelda doesn't need like a consistent story, like it's better as like individual, like each game is its own individual thing, and then this game comes out as kind of like sort of its own individual thing and sort of not, and they're like, yo, like, why wasn't this more of a direct sequel? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you guys have been wanting, like, you guys have been saying Zelda works better this way for years, and then I don't
Iron,
know. It's,
no, I agree with Jaren, but I do think a big reason for that is because this lore, like the lore, kind of contradicts Ocarina of Time. That's the big no. Like
Yeah,
people
I've
say,
seen
I don't
quite a
want.
few of these YouTubers mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't need consistency, but don't touch my Ocarina of Time. Sort of
Yep.
thing, right?
Let's
That's
get the
kind of
Ocarina of Time.
They've
Ocarina of Time
already
is like,
they've already contradicted Ocarina of Time though. That's again, that's the thing that's amusing me and kind of driving me crazy. It's not what they're saying, it's that it took them this long to come to this realization. It's like, where were you guys when Skyward Sword came out? Like,
yeah,
Skyward
like
Sword retcons the Master Sword's origin. Like,
no one
no
played,
argument.
no one
No
played
argument.
it
Like,
this way.
it fucking retcons the Master Sword origin. Sorry, like, they've already changed things.
they've been doing this for like
They've
10
been
plus
doing it
years,
for
dude.
since
It's
at
like,
least Skyward Sword. They've been doing this. And guess what? Skyward Sword was headed by Fujibayashi, same guy in charge of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So, and like,
I think I agree, but I don't think we've ever had such a like a huge. The problem is that I don't really want to call it a retcon either, because that ironically it's not. It's the lore is not clear cut enough that you can call it a retcon. It's more like, what the fuck? This is vague.
It's
What's
like-
going on?
that's
Uh,
fair. That's fair.
it felt to me like it was loose. It was connected enough just to say that it's connected, but then
I mean, I
That's
feel
about
like
it, you know
I
what I
feel
mean?
like it's solid enough when the fucking Sage of Light says we sages forged the Master Sword. I feel like that's not really vague. Unless
No,
they're
but
just
it's-
lying, I guess.
it's
They could be
more-
lying.
the Master Sword, while important, its origin is not in your face. A lot of people probably that play the game have no idea.
Yeah,
right? They didn't
I
even-
think people legitimately forgot that the sages flat out tell you they built the Master Sword in Twilight Princess. I agree that it's kind of subtle and vague
But-
enough that it's not in your face. Yeah, it's a good way of
But the
putting it.
Ganondorf in Tears of the Kingdom, however, contradicts what we know about Ocarina of Time, and that is in your face because people do remember that, and that
Yeah.
pisses them off.
Yep.
And every explanation, and we had this discussion when we talked about it, like every explanation out there, and even that I can think of, and probably other people way more invested in this than me have thought of, is that it all requires huge leaps in logic that breaks kind of the fabric of everything. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's two Ganondorfs at the same time, and then but actually, no, that breaks the lore of the game that break. Oh,
Four
right?
swords.
It's like yeah,
Four swords
everything.
Ganon.
It's like I said in the previous stream. It's like, oh yeah, okay, let's say there's two Ganondorfs, but the castle. So if the Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time is not the same one as in the Tears of the Kingdom, and he's under the castle while that's happening, okay, I can buy that. The castle was destroyed in Ocarina of Time at all. Oh, and that's why the seal broke in Tears. That was right. You see what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's like a problem with everything.
Yeah.
When you're trying to make it fit. When you
But-
try to make it fit in the overall lore, it just kind of breaks no matter
I
what you do.
I expect that, I guess. I'm not surprised that it's all like messy because it kind of maybe it's just because now we're like isn't there like 29 Zelda games now, 30 Zelda games? Maybe it's been going on so long that no one can ignore it anymore and it was just easier to ignore the weirdness before. And just my threshold was just lower than everyone else's. And around the time Skyward Sword came out, I'm like, hey, wait a second. They don't give a shit, do they?
I feel like part of it has to do with like how much of a pedestal people put Breath of the Wild on,
Yeah.
and then Tears of the Kingdom is the direct follow up.
well,
to that.
actually-
so they're like
actually,
paying more attention to it.
Okay, sorry. My thoughts are going in 20 different directions and I'm trying not to just babble, but I think you hit on something where I think Breath of the Wild maybe just brought in so many new people that they didn't realize that's like Zelda's all messy. At least half the people who bought Breath of the Wild had never played a Zelda game before it. So, they might just not know. And they're just baffled when a sequel comes out. That is all weird.
The problem I have with the lore, and it's not really a rant, and I have not seen too many of the videos you you have in the thumbnail, but like the problem I have is that based on what they said in interviews and what Nintendo wants to do, like someone pointed out in chat, they want to throw the widest net, right, and catch the
Yeah.
most consumers. You could still do that and not fuck up the lore. That's what bothers
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah,
you don't need,
I agree.
like, especially in Tears of the Kingdom, it's like we discussed this, right? You don't really have to change the story a lot to really make it fit. It's
Yep.
very minor things, and that's what is I think a lot of people have picked up, and it's like, why did they do it? Right? Like you can still have Ganondorf and that plot line in Tears of the Kingdom without retconning Ocarina of Time. Like that, it's unnecessary. Like that, I think that's why a big reason why people are so upset is that the retcon is unnecessary, like very unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like again, yeah, it's like I was saying, it almost feels like they had to have done like this on purpose. And
Yeah,
like they had to have gone the like you can't accidentally fuck it up. Like it's almost like they purposely made things contradictory on purpose. And it just make me wonder like why? Like do they and I can respect this if it's what they're trying to do. If they purposely want to make because I think I've even said it on stream before, like real world legends are like this. Like, look at the Arthurian legends. There's versions of the Arthurian stories with Morgana Le Fay. There's versions where there's multiple witches or fairies that. There's versions where Morgana Le Fay isn't even in the story. There's a version of the Arthurian legends where Morgana Le Fay takes Arthur to Avalon at the end, when he's dying. Like, what the fuck's going on with, like, the idea of, like, Zelda being a legend and being all messy and having weird contradictory things is, like, that's a problem with all legends. So if that's what they're doing on purpose, I can actually kind of, I guess, admire that. So the problem is they don't say that, and they kind of market it the opposite.
Yeah.
So I'm tempted to say a lot of this is all a big marketing problem. It's all just really bad marketing. Like, oh, we're making the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and it's not like an actual, like, that's a marketing problem, not necessarily like a problem with the game itself.
I mean, even then, like, as a lot of people mention, like, oh, this is a problem with the fans. The fans are projecting their vision onto the series. This is a company, right? This is not an indie artist, right? If your majority of your fandom wants consistent lore, you make consistent lore. It's not if that's what makes the most money, then who cares? And you might say, oh, the casuals. If you write the story in a clever way, the casuals don't even need to know.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to
I think
force the
I think you've mentioned. I think you even said that on the stream before. Like, or you just told me that. Yeah. Why bother? Like, why bother settling for the casuals? They won't care either way.
Yeah, they won't know.
Or I think you used the term normies. Like, the normies don't care either way, so just focus on the people that do care.
As long as
exactly.
Yeah, but as long as they're seeing what they're seeing on the screen is relatively self-contained, they don't need to play a bunch of other games to understand it. It doesn't matter. Like, it can be connected to everything else. Like, Morrowind is connected to Oblivion, but you can play Oblivion without playing Morrowind.
Yeah,
It's
you
fine.
could play. Yeah, you could play Oblivion. Yeah, without even playing Morrowind.
The people that play both, they're like,
Well,
oh, that's interesting.
There's
right?
a great
But, like,
example in Zelda. You can play Majora's Mask without having played Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time gives it interesting context, but you absolutely could play Majora's Mask without playing Ocarina of Time and understand everything going on.
Yeah, and like I'm not mindlessly praising Bethesda. They fuck up the lore a lot too. Like,
well, at least they have dragon breaks.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that you can. A lot of people play Skyrim and they have no idea that Skyrim is like a game in a series of games that are connected to each other. So
very true. That is very true.
I don't like the excuse either that like, oh, the games they're not supposed to be consistent. Oh no, the fans are projecting. It's like, who cares? Like, just if you write the story in a clever way, you can please both camps.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
I
think
if
that's
you
just
make a good game, then it doesn't matter.
And that's not just a Nintendo problem. It's just a massive corporate problem of we have to make sure to get every single person to buy our thing regardless of their interests. The normie problem, I guess. Which as you pointed out, like the normies will buy whatever. Like why? Like they don't care. Like they're normies. They'll buy whatever. Like just focus on the stuff that the people who care. Like exactly.
Like the regular casual consumer, right? As all they need is what's on the screen right in front of them is somewhat well written and clever enough that it's entertaining and it's consistent, and they're happy, right?
Yeah.
And then the nerds can go afterwards and discuss how this one dialogue option or whatever relates to this thing that happened 10 years ago, right? That I think you can do both. So I don't really, I never saw the argument like this is somehow the fans' fault. The company serves the consumer, not the other way around.
Well,
the company makes product. Consumer buys products.
I think I would say it's the fans' fault to some degree because they've supported this nonsense until 3 weeks ago, allegedly.
Yeah,
I mean, this is all anecdotal, so take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt, but for the last 10 years, I've had countless people basically just say, shut up, you're wrong. Like, the lore is fine. It's all consistent. And now all of a sudden, like, it's like, oh, no, it's not. It's like, yeah, that's what I was saying 10 years ago. Like, you fucking, what the? So I do think Nintendo was appealing to their audience. Or at least what they perceived as their audience and what the audience thought you know what I'm saying? Like, I do think it is partially the fandom's fault.
I do think that, again, I'm just talking to the argument where somehow that, I don't like the idea that, oh no, Zelda is never meant to, because like that's not the point. The point of the company is to make the product which pleases the most consumers, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
they say that as like a form of copium to like, oh no, Nintendo cares, but their method of caring is that they have it as like separate stories. It's like, no, they don't care. They're just trying to appeal to as many people as possible.
In one of the videos, I think it's it's by the Ratatusker guy, which great name, by the way. The World Tree Squirrel needs some more love. He in his the lore is not interesting video. He mentions, and I've said this exact same thing, I think, to you, Deox, almost word for word. He's like, I can guarantee you the reason all of the Sheikah technology disappeared in the new game is because it's blue.
Yeah, it's not thematically.
It's not a thematic or lore. It's because, we have this new aesthetic with green that we want, and there's this blue aesthetic here that doesn't match. Let's just get rid of the blue stuff and replace it with the green. I can guarantee you that's how it's been since fucking forever. Like, I've said many times, like, the reason the Zora symbol, the Zora Sapphire, is in the Rito buildings is because they liked the way it looked and they wanted to put it there. Nothing else. I don't think I'm wrong. I think that's how they think. They like certain things and they reuse stuff and they don't care about the context.
But yeah, like someone mentioned in the chat, I don't remember who it was, that like there are some traces of Sheikah technology in Tears of Gun. Yeah, there is, but like the fact that we have to sit there and copium why
I love that term, copium.
Yeah, the fucking huff copium, dude.
Yeah, the fact that we have this is my take. The fact that we have to sit here and look at piss breadcrumbs that's barely there and kind of rationalize in our heads why they don't just explain it. They don't. I'm not saying like you have to have Pura there sitting there like, yo, the robots. So we dismantled them, because they're dangerous. Like we don't need that, right? But there's nothing environmental or anything in the game that hints to what happened to it. We kind of just assume it, and I don't think that's good storytelling. I think that's a shit.
I'll agree with you there that regardless of the intentions or whatever, it is just flat out bad storytelling.
Yeah.
It is.
Like, regardless of the goals of the company or what fans want, that is just straight up bad storytelling, no matter how you look at it.
Like, it's such an easy fix. Let's say, and I agree with you. Let's say we don't want blue stuff in our green game. Okay.
That's like my favorite quote from his video, is because it was blue.
How do we get rid of blue stuff in green game? Right? And you can still accomplish getting rid of blue stuff in your green game by just explaining why it's not there. it's not really difficult. You could have just had like a one line of dialogue, or you could just have like an asset
Yeah.
that you find in the world where you show that they're dismantling the machines, right?
Yeah, like have I don't know, like a ruined guardian out in the field and there's like 2 or 3 guys with pickaxes like pulling it apart or something. Or I don't know, like make it'd probably take like 2 hours to make a ruined version of a guardian model where parts are missing and it's like disintegrating into the ground. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it wouldn't be hard.
I mean, Nintendo, Nin- Nintendo's Zelda team is definitely like reusing assets in a good way is definitely not foreign to them. Example number one, Majora's Mask. They know how to fucking make games with reused assets. Like, why
I
could they have
mean,
not?
dude, that was almost 30 years ago. Maybe it's not the same
Maybe
people
they
working
for-
on the games now. I mean, I know
maybe they just
Anima is still
forgot how to do
around,
it.
but
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah. Fujibayashi sitting there planning the sequel. Ainuma's like coming in like, "Yo, I don't want blue stuff. I think we should do green.
I
And
mean,
we should do green game."
I'm not kidding about that reasoning. Like as another example, fucking Onyx, he's got the iron knuckle suit and like the Gerudo symbol on him. Like I can guarantee you, like they weren't like, oh, how is he connected to the Gerudo? Like, is he a Gerudo male? No, they just thought it looked cool. And oh yeah, Twin
Yeah.
Rova's there. Maybe he works for her, and that's why he's got the Gerudo. Like, I can guarantee you, it's really, really simplistic thinking. I don't know how people can't see it. Like, I really don't think they put a lot of thought into it. I feel like there's certain things that they seem to actually put thought into, like Midna, but
And you know what's crazy is that the game that Minna was in was the game that they did not want to make because it was out of
yeah, it was
spite.
the game they
Because
didn't want to make.
because they're like, fine, we'll give the fans what they want, and then they make the best character with like all this great.
But even in
shit.
Twilight Princess, the hero shade, like, there's nothing that confirms he's actually a Link from Ocarina of Time. There's nothing there's no one that he doesn't flat out say like, yeah, I had your same name in a green tunic, hundreds of years ago, and I fought Ganondorf that you're gonna fight. Like,
I mean,
it's completely open to interpretation.
I feel that's fine, right? It's plausible enough that it doesn't need to be confirmed. It's kind of sketch that he's evolved to. It's kind of sketch that he's, you have to howl the.
Yeah, no, yeah,
slime.
like it's easy to put the pieces together, but I'm saying like it's not. It's kind of like you were saying with the Master Sword earlier. It's not in your face.
Yeah, but
It's not
I wanna-
conclusive, which is
so
fine.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that.
I actually don't. I think like even if they had Pura say, "Yo, Link, the machines they're gone," because I still think that would be bad, right? And I don't think, but
Yeah,
at least that would have been better. It would have taken them like I don't know 2 minutes to write in a dialogue for that.
honestly, they just should have had the
Just run it
Sheikah
through
stuff
the
sitting
AI.
around. Like it took more work to remove it all.
Like,
honestly, yeah.
Like just have it sit around, like remove some of it maybe and just keep some of it there. Like the irony is it probably took them more time and effort to remove it all than to just leave it. That's what's really
And they
funny
forgot
about
one.
that.
And they forgot one. There's one on the tech lab.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't forget it. They
No,
might have
they
left
might
it
have
on
left it
purpose.
there on purpose, yeah.
Or it's simply they didn't want to make they didn't want to remake the asset because it was a part of the house model.
Oh yeah.
Because most of the guardians are actual separate entities in the world, right? So you can easily do that essentially. So you can just
Yeah, just delete them.
from whatever program they're using to do the world design. But the house is an actual asset, right? So it's harder to detach the actual guardian from the entire house without having to modify it or redo it. And they're like, screw it.
Honestly,
Okay.
I've told you this before. I don't know if I've mentioned it on a stream, but there actually is one really easy solution to every single Zelda lore problem ever. And I know why they didn't do it with this game, and it'll make sense when I mentioned it, but just set it in a different land. That's not Hyrule.
Easy.
But our marketing.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like, almost every Zelda game where he's not in Hyrule ends up being cool. Like Majora's Mask, or even the Oracle games. It's like Like pretty much all of Tears of the Kingdom's problems would not exist if it was like the land next door to Hyrule, where they have their weird goat mythology.
The funniest thing is that I still can't believe they're like, maybe Ganondorf is Calamity Ganon, maybe he's not. Maybe it's I remember reading that I had an aneurysm. My brain like
See, I didn't because I know that's how they think. Like
I was so stupid. Talk about that's not just like not creating a narrative disconnect with the previous title. That's like erasing the stakes in the previous title. It's like when you play. Let's say you replay Breath of the Wild after Tears of the Kingdom, you're like, what?
That's what a lot of these YouTubers are saying. They're like it kind of retroactively like ruins Breath of the Wild and its stakes.
Yeah, it does.
It's really funny. But I feel like that's what Demise, like the introduction of Demise, does to some other Zelda games. See, that's why I'm saying like this isn't anything new. This has been happening since at least Skyward Sword. The just bizarre random changes to things that have already been set up.
Yeah, I mean, we also talked about it, and I picked up a lot of this, and it's interesting because a lot of people have mentioned this that we discussed when we talked about it, right? Is how they had Ganondorf, which was and Ganon, and then you have in Demise, and Demise was obviously supposed to be more of a cosmic stepping stone to the stakes, but they've sort of morphed those roles into one character. And I've seen
We had a whole talk about that with Ganondorf.
A lot of people are uncomfortable with that because I like I told you, I actually think that the descent into Ganondorf's lair in Tears of the Kingdom is really cool. It has some of the best Zelda music, actually. But the problem is that it's not Ganondorf, right? He was never this cosmic entity.
Yeah. Do we talk about that live, or is that privately that we talked about?
I think we talked about. Yeah, I think we might have talked about it just in a private call. But I do remember, and I've seen people pick up on that it's kind of weird.
Yeah, like I call it the Darth Vader problem. Basically you have a long-running series that has like a villain that was just some guy, and then over a long period of time, because fans like that character so much, in the universe he somehow becomes like this cosmic entity that can never go away. I think that happened to Ganondorf.
I will say that I think it's a bit different with Darth Vader. I don't want this to turn into a Star Wars thing.
There's Ironwolf with the Star Wars. But go on.
I think it's a bit different because when they introduced Darth Vader, they didn't have the technology to portray him in the way that he is intended.
Fair enough. I guess what I mean though is in the first Star Wars movie, in the context of the movie and the universe, he's not like some supernatural cosmic entity. He's this fucked up guy with machine body part. He's a cog in a larger machine. He's a smaller part of a bigger story. And over time, the entire Star Wars universe kind of revolves around him. Like, he's the centerpiece of everything. It's the same thing with Ganondorf and Zelda. In the older Zelda games, he's just some asshole from the desert that wants to steal the Triforce. And now he's like this unkillable cosmic entity that like spawns miasma and gloom and ooze over countless aeons and can never be killed. And even his mere existence like summons Link and Zelda like out of the aether. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
even in Wind Waker, like not just in Ocarina of Time, in Wind Waker 2, he's kind of the same. Like, he's literally just a guy. Like, he talks about like how he's just some guy from the desert in Wind Waker.
He feels like a smaller part in a bigger world, and now it's like, no, the world revolves around Ganondorf.
Like, I agree that Ganondorf has been Ganon has been like portrayed as this big demon lord before, but it's a vibe thing, right? Because when you're descending into Gloom's lair in Tears of the Kingdom, it feels like you're stepping into hell.
Yeah.
This is not just a lair of some bad demon. It feels like this is the source of all evil. And it's just kind of odd. Like, it's cool, but it's odd. Like, if this was a different villain, I think it would.
Yeah, or even if like I don't know. I haven't played. I know, and I never will. I haven't played through Tears of the Kingdom, but I know that I've seen clips of it. I've seen the fight you're talking about, and then he turns into the giant dragon or whatever. Like, I'm trying to think of like, there probably is a way you could do that and have Ganondorf be down there, but like, honestly, it kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy VII. Now that I think about it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's like, in Final Fantasy VII, you're like descending to the core of the planet. It's like this weird
Yeah.
alien fucked up place, and then at the end of the game, you're just fighting a half naked guy with a sword. It's like, is that just a Japanese thing, maybe?
We gotta kill God.
Yeah, it's like just a half naked guy, like a half naked, clean shaven guy with a sword. It's like I just fought a fucking like demon angel monster, and now it's just a guy there like with his shirt missing, and he's got a katana. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a cultural thing.
And there are certain things where I like Ratatosker said that I agree with. Like the world building, there are world building elements that I think are cool. It's just that in a world where I don't know. Like the problem is that I feel like a lot of people you don't believe in it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you need hard world building for to make it like believable and immersive. Like Lord of the Rings is a good example. I wouldn't say Lord of the Rings is not very hard on its world building. It has good world building, but it's kind of soft, right? Some things are wishy washy, right? So you don't need like hard world building, but
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. And I don't think you need answers to everything either.
But like
But what you don't need is information that blatantly contradicts existing information.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that. Like, actually, Tolkien did actually do that with the orcs, the origin of the orcs. He couldn't think of an origin for them that he liked, and so he purposely was like, all right, there's multiple possible origins, and no one knows which one's real, and they all contradict each other. So like you can't actually have contradictory information intentionally. It just depends on your goal, I guess.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I derailed what you're trying to say. I'm sorry.
No, I feel like it's weird, right? Like so there there are things some things they did like I understand why. So another like part of it that I know annoyed a lot of people is that so we talked about this on stream. I'm pretty sure we talked about this on stream before, right? So you have the game world and then you have the canon world, right? And they are not. So the game you play through is not the actual world you're experiencing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is that in Tears of the Kingdom you have all these caves and they're really cool, right?
Yeah.
But consistently for the game they tell you, oh, they appeared due to the upheaval, right? Because of Ganondorf. And
Right.
it feels it feels forced. And
It
a lot of
does.
people
Yeah.
and this is one of the points where they shouldn't have said anything, and they should
Yeah.
have
They
like
didn't need to
just
say anything.
yeah, they should have just pretend they were always there. You just didn't see them
Yeah.
in the first game because you didn't need to, right?
Yep.
It makes the entire game feel less lived in and ancient because you find these ancient ruins and everything, and it's like, oh yeah, the cave area appeared yesterday. I don't know. I, it's kind of weird. It feels like the world. It makes I guess it makes the world feel more gamey, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
It,
I agree with you. Yeah.
like I bothered that bothered me, and I like the caves in Tears of the Kingdom. I just kind of pretended that kind of line of dialogue did not exist, right? When I found an
Yeah.
NPC, it's like, oh, this cave just appeared yesterday. Oh, well, I don't know what's up. I was like, ah, okay, yeah, dull. I've seen
Yeah.
people, and I've seen a lot of people that didn't like that because, yeah, it really gamifies the world.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, every interesting thing you can find in Tears of the Kingdom is because of the upheaval, or you have access to it due to the upheaval, and it makes the world feel, yeah, more like a video game than an actual world.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with you. I I don't know where to go from here. Like, I guess what do you think it was that made like why do you think now of like why is it now that all these people are suddenly like making videos about all this
I
nonsense? Well,
I
what's your theory?
I think
Like
with
why
every
6
game,
months? Why not
no,
like right when the game came out?
I think it's because it's the honeymoon phase, right? So when the game
Right.
comes
Yeah,
out, everyone is
exactly.
initially excited, because it's just the novelty of having a new game, and people have, we've been waiting for this game for so long. It's finally here, and you're just excited that it's finally here. A lot of people need time to process what their real thoughts are on something.
Yeah.
People meme about the say Zelda cycle, right? And the Zelda cycle is like the idea that a new game comes out, everybody loves it. 6 months, a year pass, everyone hates it. Rinse and repeat, right? But I think that's not just the Zelda thing. That's an
No,
every.
that's everything. Like I
It,
can think of so many things, and that's why I said like a decade later, everyone's gonna look back at Breath of the Wild and be like, that was a really crappy tech demo with some interesting ideas that didn't entirely work. Um,
I,
Yeah.
but
and I think
the
yeah, going
and
into
things
that,
go
I
the
think
other way too. There's things that when they came out, like no one seemed to like them, and then years later they were kind of reappraised. As time went on. Like The Thing is a great example. The Thing,
yeah,
no one seems to remember The Thing, one of the greatest horror movies ever, at least in my humble opinion. It made no money when it came out, and everyone seemed to hate it. It was a fucking disaster at the box office, but it's a fucking awesome movie. Or even some, just it's because like humans exist over a period of time. Nothing is always just like right now. So yeah, like you can't. I know like for a company that's trying to make money or like media or whatever, it's not convenient to be like, oh, we can't give our real opinion on this for 10 more years.
yeah,
So like I understand why like everyone's like in a rush to like say this is how this thing is like right when it comes out, but that's not reality. Like it takes time. I don't know what to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just the fact that the game's been out for a while. We know we're not getting any DLC, so what we have is what we get, right? And I think a
that
lot of
honestly, that surprises me. I was certain there's going to be lots of DLC.
let's just say if I was their boss, they would be working on the DLC right now. It would be out before
Yeah.
Christmas. Yeah, but I'm not the boss. I also said that instead of breaking the lore, what I would have done is that I would market this game as like, oh, Ganondorf, it's Ganondorf, right? And then I would before the, before the game comes out,
Ocarina of Time
yeah,
remake.
I
Yep.
would port Ocarina of Time 3D to the Switch and be
To
like,
Switch. Yeah.
and market it as, oh, this is the origin story for the new shiny villain in the new game. Buy this.
Yeah. For all
So
Yeah.
those people who never played Ocarina of Time. Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
would do.
Very, very, very strange decision. Well, not entirely strange. I think it's because they knew whatever they made would sell well. I really think that's where that company is right now. They know they can make Hyrulean dump truck simulator and it will sell millions of copies regardless of the quality. I mean look at the what was it, the Pokemon game that came out was it a year ago where you can't even
Yeah,
leave the house like until they patched it. Like half the people couldn't even leave the house that you start the game in. It was that broken. And it wasn't it like the
Yeah.
second highest selling Pokemon game of all time?
yeah,
Nintendo, I forgive this expression, but Nintendo has their hand on like no, I'm not gonna say that expression. Like they have everyone's childhood by the balls. That's a
yeah.
really weird
No, it's
expression, but like it's like
no,
they
it's
know
true.
they can make whatever and sell whatever and it'll sell regardless of
It's
the
because
quality.
I was having this discussion with a friend of mine because we were talking about Game of the Year. She's a huge Baldur's Gate fan, and she was upset because she's like, I just know Tears of the Kingdom is going to win Game of the Year over Baldur's Gate because the fucking Nintendo fans are just like militant and they will absorb and consume and they don't care how bad their game is. They will just, it's Nintendo, it's their
Aw.
childhood franchise, and it's going to
Yeah, and
win.
like I get it. Like I played Ocarina of Time back in 1998 and it had its effect on me. Like I understand why people feel that way about Zelda, but it's like that was
Hmm.
30 almost 30 years ago. Like
Yeah.
Even then,
I
I never understood the idea that like if you love something, you're not supposed to rip it to pieces.
Oh
Now,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's hate is very much related to love, and
Well,
I
yeah,
even
no,
say
yeah,
so.
I was gonna say that. Like, you can't hate something if something you love isn't being like compromised.
Like
Otherwise, you would just have apathy. Like, if you
yeah,
didn't love
I
something, you wouldn't hate the thing because you just have apathy to be like, I
that
don't care.
despite everything, I still love Zelda. That's why I rip on it because
Hmm.
I think it can be better, and I think it deserves like everything that I like should be open to be criticized. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Or
Yeah,
at least people are more open about it now. And I feel like a lot of people that I've seen that did enjoy Tears of the Kingdom, they still liked it, right? But they're disappointed and they're ripping on it because they love the franchise and they want it to do well. It makes sense.
yeah.
Uh,
I would say over the last decade, my from where I was coming from, my perspective was this series has an insane amount of potential, and it's not even come anywhere close to reaching it. And that's kind of where I've sat since like Spirit Tracks, or since Twilight Prince, since after Twilight Princess. My perspective has been like, wow, Twilight Princess was awesome. Things have been improving, and now they're not. And like the series has it's not reached its potential, not even close. And every time it just doesn't, it just makes me feel sad. But at
Hmm.
this point, I really don't think I like Zelda much anymore. I like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Baby Twilight Princess. I like those, and everything else I don't care anymore. Like, it's just the magic's gone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like I don't want to sound, like an old jaded boomer, but yeah, the magic's just gone for me. I don't really
Hmm.
like Zelda much anymore. It's the spell's broken. Sorry, I don't know what to say.
I feel like but yeah, I guess that kind of summarizes my thoughts with Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like a lot of people now have had time to reflect on it and think
Yeah,
about it and think about what kind of impact it has on the franchise as a whole and gaming in general, right? And that
Right.
people are angry and frustrated because they're confused because a lot of the choices in the game don't make sense, right? If
yep.
and I've been doing
Well,
this for the
they
past.
do if you know Nintendo. Anyway,
Then
sorry.
again,
Go.
like I think a lot of people know that. It's still frustrating, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's frustrating. I've
It's
just
like
come to
if you
terms. I
if you,
guess just I've come to terms with it already.
yeah, you have that one friend that keeps messing up his life, and you know he's gonna mess up his life again, right? And but you're still frustrated
Yeah, I
because it
mean,
doesn't make sense.
yeah, I can only speak for myself, I guess. Like, I came to terms with it, so like none of this frustrates me. I'm like, yeah, of course, Tears of the Kingdom's like this.
I, the
Yeah.
funny thing is, it used to frustrate me, but I'm kind of more at where you're at now. I don't care anymore. It,
I really think the moment that the frustration turned to apathy was probably sometime around the time Hyrule Warriors came out.
yeah,
Hmm.
apathy is the death of passion.
Yeah. Well, actually, no.
Uh,
I know for certain when when it was just like, okay, that's it. It's when they released a trailer for Tears of the Kingdom for the first time before it was even called that. The first trailer, like 4 or 5 years ago now. It's the
Yeah.
one, and when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, it's done. I'm pretty sure that's and funnily enough, that's when that's when Hyrule Conquest kind of started to fade away, and I started to lose interest in working on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. Um no, but as far as all like the uh, what was I going to say? It was something about the some of the videos. Yeah, I get the first of these videos I saw was I think someone on the Discord, he posted the Rototusker's video about the Tears of the Kingdom lore is not interesting, and I really like that
Hmm.
video. It's very amusing to listen to. But the thing I thought was really funny in the video, he said like Tears of the Kingdom was coming out, and I was gonna pivot my channel into being a Zelda lore channel. That's all I was gonna do. And then the
Hmm.
game came out, and like 3 weeks later, I realized, fuck, I can't do this. There's not enough lore. And I was just like, yeah, at least you learned really quickly. But which, for the record, if I've been trying to get into contact with Ratatosker, but I haven't been able to get in contact with him. If anyone in the audience has a line to him, I would love to have a conversation with him. Please help get me in contact with him. I'd really like to talk with him. I think he and I have a lot of actually shared opinions. But I'm really curious to talk to him and ask him some stuff. But I'm having trouble getting in contact with him because I seem to always have trouble getting in contact with people that are larger than me. Estelle Ellis is a genuine miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do next, though. But
I'm not.
I'm always curious what they do next.
I guess I was gonna say I'm morbidly curious, but I don't even. I just don't. I don't know. I'm done. I don't care. They can do whatever. Do motorcycle Zelda something. I don't know, like some biker gang Zelda game. That would be cool. Maybe, I don't know.
For me, what is so weird about like the game's been kind of people that cracked their ROM and done some digging on it as far as I've heard, and what kind of weirds me out again, like I was going earlier with how long development time this is, and I how much reused assets there are. Like, it's actually insane.
Yeah, the what is in the game and all the reused assets. It does not match the time they spent on it.
No, I think the common the common idea is that they must have spent it on the ultra hand mechanics, which I can see. From the ultra hand, it's kind of janky, but it's very impressive, right? From a mechanical standpoint.
I'll take your word for it.
It's kind of jank, but it's impressive. If someone told me, huge parts of development time was sunk into getting it to work the way they wanted it, I would believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I would believe it. Like I told you, Neff, if you would ask me, was it worth it? Absolutely not.
No, yeah. But I'm not the right person to ask because I don't think Breath of the Wild was worth anything. I think it was a mistake. I think Skyward Sword was a mistake, though. So I'm the wrong person to ask about what's worth what. Because if it was up to me, pretty much nothing after Twilight Princess would even exist. Except maybe... maybe your favorite game, Phantom Hourglass.
But I'm also the wrong person to ask because I don't like gimmicks, right? I don't like that Zelda has to have a new gimmick every time. It's like, just make good dungeons, just make compelling characters.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Just innovate on the basics. You don't need
reiterate, or what's the phrase? I think it's because our culture has an obsession with new and original stuff, which is actually a really unhealthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, originality is just an excuse by elites to stop peasants from having fun, so...
I mean, at the same time, right, it's people's like, oh, I'm tired of the formula, I'm tired of them doing the same thing, then just don't buy it.
Yeah.
And
well, they'll throw that at me, like, oh, if you don't like the new stuff, then just don't buy it. Well, guess what? I didn't buy it.
Yeah, but that's that's the best thing you can do. If you don't like the direction something is going, then don't buy it, don't support it, and if more people feel like the way you do, it's whatever the thing is, it's gonna have its natural death eventually, right? It's kind of whatever. But I don't think really that what happens. I think most big games or franchises will always, regardless, kind of find its own niche audience, right? That would just keep it on life support for a long time. That's kind of...
Look at Star Fox, my god.
Star
Fox is like a corpse hooked up to like... Star Fox is like battle damaged RoboCop, and there's just like malnourished, sick people desperately trying to keep him from dying. That's where Star Fox is right now.
Yeah. I met a friend who, sorry, this is a bit off topic because it's Star Fox related, but I actually have a friend that was telling me that they think that the only reason people still even talk about Star Fox is because of how popular Super Smash Bros. Melee is and how much of the fucking Star Fox characters are iconic to that game.
They kind of are. Well, oddly enough, they did kind of flesh out Fox McCloud, as far as what he's capable of doing. But I think it's just because Star Fox was, especially like Star Fox 64 in particular, it was just it's a really damn good game from the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, like same thing with Ocarina of Time. Like again, I get why people are like hostage to Zelda, like regardless of what they do with it. Like I understand why. It's because Ocarina of Time came out at the right time. It was a very well done game with like no competition. It struck a chord
Hmm.
with lots of people. As Yahtzee said, it loved you more than your parents probably did. Like I get it, but again, that was 30 years ago. Like
Yeah.
you don't like I don't know. I just the Zelda
No, I
fandom
get
is
it.
just it makes me roll my eyes. It's like it's not that great, guys. Come on, like
Hmm.
like Breath of the Wild's not that great. It's kind of mediocre. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe the next one will be better. It probably won't, but maybe it'll be better. Just it's okay. It doesn't not every Zelda game has to be the greatest thing created by mankind, game of the year all years. It's okay.
I mean, I maybe it's I don't know. I guess there's some nostalgic value to it and people enjoy it. I can't personally relate to that. As I've said before, I don't really feel the nostalgia the way other people seem to do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, don't really care what I played when I was a dumb kid.
Honestly, that's probably how. Like, Lizzie's the same way. She has like absolutely no nostalgia for her past. Probably because her past was not as bright as mine or other people's. But yeah, like nostalgia. The word nostalgia, it has an extremely negative meaning in the language it comes from. Like, it's weird that our culture has like propped up that word as a positive thing. It's not a good thing. It's like being a prisoner
Hmm.
almost.
I mean, it's because I feel like a lot of our culture is like like cynicism is like an aspect of our culture.
Yeah,
It's
and
like
I
everything
can.
is shit. Everything now is shit. The present is shit. Future is shit. Past good though.
Yeah,
Past
Yeah.
good.
I kind of understand why. I just that's not the solution of the problem. I guess is like I know I'm gonna sound like a massive hypocrite. When we shift the stream to the N64 stuff, but like the solution isn't I guess pining for how things were, I guess, because there's not really any way to like reverse the clock. The only
Hmm.
way out is through, not like back, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I noticed in the comment,
I
I'm
agree.
sick of reviewers keep attaching the word revolutionary to anything Nintendo. Yeah. Revolution. Speaking of another word that has extremely negative origins, revolutionary actually is supposed to be bad. Like, that word is supposed to have a negative meaning, much like nostalgia, and like our culture's like it doesn't understand what the words meant. Um. Anyway, sorry, I think I interrupted you.
No, all I was gonna say, I'm not gonna go in like a preachy tangent, but like, I don't know. It's like in terms of how shit, I think a lot of like how you view the world and everything is like a attitude thing, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
If you go into something with a negative mindset, it's gonna be shit, and it's you're in charge of how you want to see the world. Obviously, there are external things that influence you, but ultimately, you are the master of your own destiny, right? In that sense.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's a, like if you if and I think it's okay that you don't like new things or present things. That's fine, but it's like this constant like valuing in misery and everything is shit and everything is bad and everything in the past was good. I feel like yeah. I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's okay. I just personally don't understand it. kind of miserable
Yeah.
existence.
I also think another problem with that kind of thinking is like the world has been on the brink of collapse before multiple times. Like it's not like this is the first time everything's kind of been like shit. Like about us, most people now weren't alive then, but a century ago the world was on the brink of total annihilation. The fucking Bronze Age collapse within like a generation. Most of the civilizations in the world were just gone. Like it's happened before. So yeah, the idea that like, oh, the past was just all awesome and the future is just shit. It's like, well, it's the truth is it's both. Like it's both.
Mm-hmm.
I'll for me, I think it's more so. I don't know how to put into words. And I actually think what I'm about to say is normal. It's like the magic of the world is just kind of gone. And I actually think that the problem is more so people were just not like prepared to be adults.
Yeah.
I think it's more so that it's less so like, oh, the world is now shit and we want the past. It's more like it's like no one was properly trained to be, no one was prepared to deal with what it's like, growing up, for lack of a better phrase, which ironically, that seems to be what Ocarina of Time is about, actually. Someone who was not he was not properly prepared to grow up, and he was thrust into that situation, ill-prepared. So, there I segued Zelda into what I was talking about. So yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want to say about this weird phenomenon of all these Zelda YouTubers just suddenly being like, oh, I don't think I like Zelda much anymore. More specifically, Tears of the Kingdom, I guess. Or, oh, yeah. The lore is bad. Like, yeah, the whole lore is bad realization. Anyone in the audience have anything to say about it?
I mean, I've got nothing else to say. I don't know about them, but...
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about it. I'm very amused because, if I can channel Razor Fist, fuck you, I was right, fuck you, I was right. I predicted it.
Yeah.
I predicted all of these things, and I'm just kind of like rolling my eyes like, wow, how are you guys caught off guard by this? Like, did you play Breath of the Wild? Like, of course it's like the... I see death to Zonai in the comments. Yeah, the Zonai are... That was the lore dump I needed about the Hylian royal family, that they screwed goat monsters. Is exactly what I needed to know. I freaking hate that little heart icon on the YouTube chat. I can't see like the last comment because of it.
Oh yeah.
I guess Deox, you got nothing else to say about that?
No.
No, yeah. I don't even know if I had much to say in the first place. It was more so just amusement. And I almost feel like a bit of catharsis. But, how long do you guys got? Do you have much time left, or?
I don't really know, unfortunately.
Do you guys want to shift to the N64 stuff?
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
All right, and maybe we'll go for like 45 minutes or however long until we pass out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works for me.
Yeah, let me look in the comments really quick before we shift gears. Someone's saying can I turn the heart icon off? Is there a way if there's a way to turn it off, I don't know how. I guess I could Google search it. How do you get rid of the stupid heart thing in the YouTube chat? Because yeah, I'd like to get rid of it. It's really annoying. Someone says I've been off Zelda for a while, so I'm allowed to be surprised. Yeah. As I said earlier in the stream, like, Breath of the Wild probably brought in a bunch of new fans who'd never really played Zelda before, and they might have been caught off guard, like, hey, this is the sequel, why is it all weird? Like, why is it, like, blatantly contradicting the Breath of the Wild? Or, people who stepped away from a long time, they might be caught off guard. I just, since at least Skyward Sword, like, they've been so loosey-goosey with everything. Like, I'm not surprised at all. They've retconned shit left and right. Even A Link Between Worlds, it retcons the ending of A Link to the Past. You know, it says the Master Sword is gonna sleep forever. It's kind of implied that that's it for the Master Sword. Oh no, he's waving it around again in the immediate sequel. So like they're like, this kind of shit has happened before, where like they just, in a sequel they'll just be like, oh yeah, the thing that happened in the last game, yeah, just ignore that. This is happening now. Like, it's not new. I guess maybe it's just the scale of it in this new game is too big to ignore.
Yeah.
Or just people just, I don't know, it just, maybe they were aware with it and they were just in denial. That honestly, that's kind of the feeling I've gotten. People were just in denial.
Yeah.
If you'll allow me to be a bit cynical, I think people just been in denial for a decade about Zelda. They've probably partially, or they've realized it and they're just like, nah, there's probably like a way, there's, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just been in denial.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that's only some people and others just, they didn't notice. I don't know. Zelda's just lame now. Let's see if there's any questions. I'm not seeing any questions. So yeah, I guess we could talk about the N64. Let me see if I can change the background to reflect the N64 stuff. Let's see, browse. Cause yeah, I don't want that image in the background now if we're gonna change gears. Let's see, Fallen Sage screens. There we go. There, did the background change?
Let's give it a second
Yeah, I'll give it a second, because yeah, we might be like 30 seconds behind. I don't know if it's changing or not. Whatever, if it changes, it changes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So yeah, I guess we're gonna...
Yeah, it did change.
Oh, it did? Oh, it still hasn't changed on my... Oh, there we go, it changed. Alright, now I'm gonna be a complete and massive freaking hypocrite. Let's go back in time, everyone, to 2000 and 2001. Let's go back in time.
What is a Twilight Princess?
What is Wind Waker and Twilight Princess? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, I posted a little video that had quite a lot of positive feedback that kind of convinced me of the direction I should probably go in, at least long term.
Mm-hmm.
And for those in the audience who haven't seen it, I've been screwing around with the N64, and some, my off time, I've been kind of trying to get things to work on the N64. I put together some environments and some basic stuff, and I think, I'm not sure when, but at some point in the future, I'm just going to make an N64 Zelda game.
Yeah.
And to answer that question in the chat, I made the art on the left. I made everything you see in the screen here. The models and the artwork and all that. So, I don't know, do you guys have anything you want to say about N64 Zelda sequel-itis or whatever?
I am very, very, very excited for this idea. I think it was over the summer that we were talking about it a bunch and doing a lot of looking around.
6 months ago. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Wow. I just remember like we were in voice for like 8 hours one day, just like talking about the ideas and stuff for it, and it just sounded like so good. And I know you were enjoying it a lot because you felt like super refreshed to talk about Zelda again, like when we were talking about it.
Yeah, Zelda in a completely different context. Without all the baggage of everything that came after. Yeah.
I feel like it's way better. Like
even than Hyrule Conquest.
It's more the fact that again, I feel like if you enjoy something when you make it, it's gonna show, right? If you don't
Yeah.
like enjoy it, that's gonna show too, and it's gonna bring some negativity into it that people are gonna pick up even if they're not aware of it. So ultimately, I think like if you enjoy working on something, you're just gonna get a better product, like regardless, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So
so I do think sometime in the next few years I'm definitely gonna make an N64 Zelda game, and it's going to be a very direct sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. It's not gonna be an ice cream cannon lore, or it's not gonna be in the Hyrule Conquest timeline. It's gonna very much do its best to be like, yeah, this is sometime after Majora's Mask. I've been, scouring through interviews and stuff with the people who made Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, specifically Koizumi. I've been trying to I want to make something that really feels like it might be something they made, to the extent that that's possible. Obviously, that's not. I can't do that perfectly, but I'm gonna try. Like I've tried. How come I'm forgetting his name? The guy who did all the artwork for Ocarina of Time. Is it Anako? Let me look up really quick so I don't make an idiot of myself. Ocarina of Time. How come I'm forgetting his name? Oh, Nakano. Okay, I was mixing up the A and the N. Akano. No, Nakano. His artwork. I've done my best to emulate it as much as I can. I think it was actually you, Deox. I think you introduced me to a missing link. Was it you?
yeah, I came
I
from
was
the
like,
depths,
yeah.
and I was like, play this, it's good.
Yeah, that was like 2 or 3
It is
years
good.
ago. So the genesis of this idea actually goes back a few years. It was whenever Missing Link came out, and I played it. And when I played it, it made me realize, I think, the core of the issue I've had with Zelda for the longest time, and I just never really realized it until then, was that there was never any closure for the Link and the Hyrule, and that basically my entry. The first Zelda game I played was Ocarina of Time, so that to me is like the entry into Zelda, and I can only speak for myself, but I feel like that version of Hyrule and that version of Link never got any kind of closure at all. And I think for the last 20 years, I've just been wanting a sequel. And none of the Zelda games really scratched that itch. The closest was Twilight Princess, which is probably why it's my favorite. But even Twilight Princess is not exactly really a sequel. It kind of is, but not really.
It's very loosely a sequel.
It's very loosely
Look at
a
it.
sequel. I would say thematically it's not a sequel. It has much different themes than Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. It is the closest that any Zelda game got to that. Even Wind Waker, which Wind Waker does more directly reference Ocarina of Time, which is kind of amusing. But yeah, as Haxon says in the chat, I agree with you. It did technically have closure, but yeah, it was an off-screen tragedy where Link, they basically are like, yeah, Link died, no one knew who he was, and that was that. Now he's a skeleton. So yeah, I guess it did get closure. It was just kind of like sucked.
It was symbolic all along.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, like there's not even really anything in Twilight Princess that with certainty confirms that, that is the same Link from Ocarina of Time. I think it's fair to say it is, but
Didn't they confirm it?
they
Or am I
confirmed it
tripping?
in their art book.
Okay. But yeah, like years after
The
the game came
glorified
out. But yeah,
Wikipedia entry that is Hyrule Historia that kind of started a lot of all the
the
timeline
problems.
nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe when they made the game, they purposely kept it as vague as possible so it was open to interpretation, which I think is what they do in a lot of Zelda games. But so yeah, I'm gonna try and make an N64 Zelda game, but I probably should finish as much of Hyrule Conquest first as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, is Deox, what do you think, Deox? Should I just not even bother with Hyrule Conquest and just
Yeah,
chuck it?
I mean, I think if you can finish what, at least the factions at least, I think people would be happy and then kind of leave it
Yeah.
there.
I don't think I'll make a campaign with 20-hour cinematics. I don't even know if that's going to be possible in 0 AD because that kind of depends on them, working on the engine. And it honestly, it sounds like they're kind of winding down on 0 AD.
Yeah.
So I might just try and I'm getting the River Zora done because I was kind of in the middle of them when I decided to kind of quit, and I've done a bit more of the River Zora, so they're at least getting done. But after them, I don't know if I have it in me to put like 5 or 6 more factions into the game.
Yeah.
I
mean,
guess I'll try, but
I don't even think the current, in regards to the campaign, I don't even think the current game engine supports having like cinematics and cutscenes in it, right? Like you can't even have like MP4 videos in it. I remember.
no, yeah, you can't. You can have like in-game cutscenes, but yeah, the way
Yeah.
EXO and I did it is when a cinematic was supposed to play, it just opens up the YouTube video in the middle of the game. Yeah, it was a really like janky solution, and I liked it because it was such a janky solution to the problem. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
been bothering the 0 AD people to get some kind of video format supported in the engine, and they haven't done it yet. But and they're doing it for free. Like I can't like get mad at them or anything. Like they're making 0 AD for free. But there's a few things that I need them to do, and if they don't do it, then there's some things I wouldn't be able to finish, like, yeah,
Yeah.
cinematics, but I can get, the rest of the factions into the game, I guess. It's just a matter of willpower at this point. The Hyrule Patreon is, basically dead, which, I encouraged people to leave. I encouraged people to leave, months ago, so it's fine, I guess. But and then obviously the biggest problem, although I don't consider it a problem, is just I'm working on Star Fox all the time now, and it's absorbing all my time, so I don't really have time for any other big thing.
I mean, I think focusing on the current project is probably best.
Focusing on what?
On your current project.
Oh,
it's
Star
probably
Fox.
just
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
Well,
as you
yeah.
go
Like, there's
along,
no question. Like that's not even a question. Like Star Fox is the thing I'm working on now. It's just too big right now. There's too much momentum.
Yeah. And you got to keep it up.
I'm talking more long term, like when I do have time in the future, like when I go back to Hyrule Conquest, or I don't know,
So
I don't know if I have it in me to do much for Hyrule Conquest. Like every now and again, I get an urge to work on it, and then I sit down and I start, and within like 10 minutes, I'm like, nah, I don't want to do this.
I think what I mean, I think my recommendation would be to. It seems like you're really excited about the N64 stuff. I honestly think if you're going to commit any time to Zelda, and this is coming from someone that has been like, obviously I'm a huge Hyrule Conquest guy. You know that. I think it would be good for you to focus on the N64 stuff because I feel like if you put a lot into that, it might kind of give you the motivation, the Zelda related motivation to go back and finish up the loose ends in Hyrule Conquest. I'm worried that if you try to force yourself to do Hyrule Conquest stuff, you might just like piss yourself off with Zelda and it'll take away from your N64 progress time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm wondering if I can get an actual video of the N64 thing in the background without the sound fucking up everything.
You could just play the YouTube video on repeat with
Let me
it muted.
see. Is there a way I can? All right, everyone in the audience, if you suddenly hear N64 sound effects, let me know. They might. I'm trying to try and play like the footage in the background while we talk. I'm not sure if it'll play the sound. Okay, I don't hear sound on my end. So, do you guys hear it playing the sound? Or...
Give it a second.
Yeah, it might take a few seconds. Okay, media source. Apologies in the audience. You might hear, fucking gameplay and sound effects and stuff. That
Yeah,
might.
yeah. It's got it's got sound on.
All right. Well, I lowered the media source volume, so let me know if it stops. Did it stop, everyone?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool. All right. Then I'll leave the footage in the background while we talk, I guess, because yeah, that's kind of give people who might not have seen the video, they can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. All right, cool. Yeah, they don't hear the sounds anymore. I think I'm getting better at not being a boomer with technology. That only took like 5 seconds for me to resolve instead of a half hour.
I feel like a big I remember you were a bit frustrated with the limitations. I do think the limitations of the format is like a big reason why it's the way it is, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Like, yeah, the polygon limit is infuriating, but it's not infuriating in a way that I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's challenging me basically.
Yeah.
It's like when you feel anger when you're like playing a video game, I guess, and a boss like keeps defeating you, and like there's a way to defeat this boss, but I don't know how yet. Like that's the kind of anger it is. It's not like the pissing off anger where I just don't even want to deal with it anymore. Like the on screen right now, the Tarm area, the dungeon, like it's literally like 4 polygons below the limit where the N64 just blanks out and it can't handle it anymore. Like I was putting it into I was freaking injecting it into the card or whatever, and I was starting it up and it just kept going blank, and I'm like, fuck, it's over the limit. And I spent like 2 or 3 hours just getting rid of polygons where I could, and then finally it started up and I'm like, yes, I did it. I reduced the poly count just enough. So no, I absolutely agree with you that all of the limits are what makes Ocarina of Time like what it is. Like I think it helps the atmosphere a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the models in the N64 games are really good, right? It's just
Yeah,
I think
they are. Especially for what they are.
Yeah, I think you have to approach it in like a different way. Yeah, like it's like certain things you want to or details you want to add is not feasible, so you have to kind of like jank your way around it.
Yeah, like one of the most interesting things when I started doing this is, I was looking at the artwork, and then looking, how do they go from the artwork to the models, and it's trying to figure out like, okay, those details in the artwork, like how did they translate to them to the models? And I'm pretty sure the artwork was kind of made in a way that the way their designs are, they were designed that way probably so they could be easily translated into the models.
Yeah.
And I can tell in instances where that wasn't the case, like with Princess Zelda's design, I don't think it was model friendly. Speaking of N64 Zelda stuff, I see Zero Volt in the audience. He did the lovely music in this video, and the missing link too. And he is going to be doing the music for this. I've commissioned him to do a lot of the music for this.
It's so funny. I remember when I pitched to play the missing that you should.
Yeah, it was his music, wasn't it? Yep.
Yeah. Just listen to this music. This is I told you this is Zelda. This is what we needed. All along.
And I'm really glad I got in contact with Zero Volt. Although apparently he already knew who I was. Zero Volt, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you already knew who I was before I tried reaching out to you or something. Or like you were trying to contact me about Star Fox or something. I don't know. My memory's really bad. He'll correct me. But yeah, it absolutely was his music. I think even more than Missing Link itself, it was his music that kind of made me realize like what I actually wanted in Zelda was like a sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Wow, we're up to 50 people. That's a nice big audience, and Gafford isn't even here. Or Estelle, like neither Gafford or Estelle are here, and we've got a pretty decent sized audience for, I mean, it's still like tiny compared to like big YouTube channels, but you know what I mean. For me, like that's a lot, like 50 people's a lot.
I think one of the things that is honestly most exciting about this whole project is like a lot of people, a lot of like I don't know. I feel like some people might be like part of their issue with Hyrule Conquest is how much it's deviated from the lore. I feel like this is really cool because it's like
Yeah,
we're
well,
going back to like
actually, case in point, on some forum somewhere, there's someone who's made it known to me that they hate Hyrule Conquest and they hate my stuff. Over like the last few years. And I posted this in that forum, you know, when I finished it, and that same person, they you know, they posted in the forum like, wow, this is actually really cool, and they started asking me a bunch of questions, and I'm like, okay, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. If someone who hated my work is suddenly like saying positive things, like, okay, that's a good sign.
I remember when we were first talking about this, I was showing some of this stuff to Tedster, and she was like, "What the heck? Neff following Nintendo's like trying to follow their example? Like, what the heck is this? Like, what timeline are we in?"
The funny thing is that's kind of how you started, though.
That
like,
is how I started. I deviated because the Nintendo stuff became such a mess to follow.
Yeah, like it did start that way.
Like if if any of you go back to my oldest work, which I don't recommend because it sucks, but the old Fallen Sage RPG, that I made almost 20 years ago now. Can you believe it? It's like 18 or 19 years old now. The Fallen Sage RPG, it is treated as if it's a sequel to Ocarina of Time. And when I made Hyrule, not Total War, the Gerudo Wars comic, a lot of my old Zelda stuff, I really was trying to make it, you know, fit with all the other Zelda games, but around the time Skyward Sword came out, I'm just like, well, they're retconning shit left and right. I can't, like, I'm just gonna do my own thing, because they are, like, doing their own thing every game, so that's kind of why Hyrule Total War and Hyrule Conquest ended up kind of being, like, in its own continuum, I guess. I think I like the word continue. I think Ratatosker used that word too. Continuum I like better than canon, because canon is the absolutely wrong word to use for what people are referring to. Canon also has a lot of religious overtones that I find really funny, because it's like Zelda's not a religion, guys. Like you don't go to church to play Zelda. Stop saying there's or not even just Zelda, but like all entertainment, everyone uses the word canon. It's like you don't go to a church to watch Star Wars. Stop calling it canon. Continuum is a better word. But
continuation,
Someone in the audience says, I never heard of Fallen Sage. Did you make it on Flash? Well, it's a good thing you've never heard of it, because it's terrible. But no, I made it in RPG Maker way back in 2005, 2006.
Yeah, somewhere around
there. I
there.
released it in 2007, but I started on it, I think, in 2005. And then I worked on it through most of 2006, and I think I finished it in 2007. Yeah, it predates Twilight Princess, which is a trip. I remember, like, yeah, it was before Twilight Princess was coming out, and I was, like, using images and artwork from, like, the trailers of Twilight Princess as things in the game. Like, Link's sprite is just the Twilight Princess artwork, but, like...
Yeah, the key art.
With, like, a shitty, like, MS Paint thing.
Oh my god. I think I remember that, yeah.
It's so bad. I don't recommend playing it, but it still exists, and you can still find it if you go digging. I don't even know if it'll work on Windows 10 or Windows 11. It might not. It barely worked on Windows 7. But yeah, it's almost 20 years old now. It's absolutely insane. It doesn't feel like that was 20 years ago. Isn't being a Jedi an officially recognized religion? I wouldn't be surprised. I know that they're trying to make, like, Harry Potter churches in Canada. Good luck with that. Ultra Scarlet... what were we going to say?
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Ultra Scarlet was asking, what do you think of Twilight Princess in the modern day? I love Twilight Princess. Depending on my mood, I might even say it's my favorite Zelda game. I love Midna. She's, like, the best character Nintendo's ever made. Like, ever. By a long shot, too. Like, the next best Nintendo character is still, like, leagues below. Like, Twilight Princess is really good. It's not... I want it to be a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and it's not. So, it's not. It's good. I think on a technical level, on a storytelling level too, it probably is the best Zelda game. That might drive some people insane, but I think it probably is like the quote unquote best on like an objective sense. But I still think my favorite is either Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. There's just something about those two games and their atmospheres that is so overwhelmingly strong that it doesn't matter that Twilight Princess has better technical quality. It just doesn't capture the atmosphere of those two other games.
For me, Majora's Mask is overwhelmingly better than Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat as Deox. I'm a big Majora's Mask fan.
I think I agree with you. But to me, they're kind of... Majora's, like, they're not the same game, but to me, like, Majora's Mask, it's like right after Ocarina of Time, so it just feels like a direct continuation of Ocarina of Time to me.
Almost to the point where they feel like kind of like the same game in your mind, like
yeah, like almost like, you know, you defeat Ganon in Ocarina of Time, the ending cinematic plays, and then Link goes to talk to Zelda, and then instead of turning off the N64 and switching the cartridges, like the screen fades, and then it's just like, you know, 1 month later, and then Majora's Mask just starts. It's almost seamless. I feel like it'd be almost seamless.
yeah,
Although there are subtle differences in Majora's Mask that are not in Ocarina of Time. Like, one thing about Majora's Mask I really like is it has like this blur effect when things move really fast that Ocarina of Time doesn't have.
Yeah.
It has like this really subtle like ghosting effect when things move. Like one point in the game where you'll really notice it is whenever Odolwa jumps.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it's used more subtly in cinematics and stuff too. It's like this really... It's like this hazy, blurry effect that Ocarina of Time doesn't have, and I think it really helps the uneasy feeling of Majora's Mask. It's a really cool visual effect that I like.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are definitely differences in Majora's Mask, but like they almost feel like the same to me. Like, I don't know if that's just me.
Yeah.
Let's see. I see the audience is saying lots of stuff now. Now that we started talking about positive stuff.
I was gonna say, Deox, we gotta see that what's this, the Deku Kingpin.
Yeah,
yeah.
where's Deku Don?
Yeah, dude, we gotta see him sometime.
Give it to me and I'll model him.
Yeah, I'll have to. I was sketching him like this summer. I don't think I ever finished it because I was trying to get like I really wanted to get the pose proper when he's sitting in the chair, all smug with like yeah.
No one knows what we're talking about yet. We'll keep him a surprise. But yeah, Lord of Creation asks, "Hey, Ice Cream Man, if you had a chance to create a new race or enemy for the Zelda universe, includes bringing back old enemies, what would the race be? For me, it'd be crustaceans or a race like the Naga. If we're talking about something original that's not been in any Zelda game, some kind of fungus or like mushroom creatures. I actually think when we were brainstorming for this a few months ago, I realized there's almost no like mushroom or fungus creatures in Zelda at all, which I thought was really kind of surprising. There's a few, but like compared to everything else, there's almost none. So some kind of fungus creature, mushroom creatures. As far as bringing back an enemy from bringing back it, well, I guess like, do you mean for a new N64 game, or like what do you mean by like bringing back an
Probably in general,
enemy?
right? Like something that was not like something that's probably not been like underutilized, I imagine.
Because yeah, like in
Something
Hyrule
else,
Conquest, I bring back everything I can, so like every enemy, I guess. But if we're talking about like the N64 game, like I would like to see Manhandla on the N64, which I'm gonna try and do. What else would I like to see on the N64 from other Zelda games? Obviously more Goma, which I think I have some Goma in the screenshot or the scroll here somewhere. Like more Goma. Mothulas would be really cool. Any kind of any kind of, I mean, even an original design for Mothula, some kind of like moth creature I'd really like to see on the N64. What else from other Zelda games? Oh, I know, River Zora, duh. I gotta have the River Zora at some point. The fucking feral wild River Zora. I've got to bring them back, and put them on the N64. So yeah, them. Probably a few others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those for certain, for bringing back old stuff. Let's see. Android DX asks, "Have you seen the English dubs from Zelda Universe? It made me the character. Did you mean to say it made you like the characters even more, especially Midna?" To answer your question though, no, I haven't seen any of the dubs. I think I like years and years ago, I think someone linked me to the Skyward Sword one, but I only watched like a few minutes of it because I don't really like Skyward Sword. I just didn't care. But no, I haven't seen the Twilight Princess one. But yeah, Midna's the best Nintendo character ever made. Let me rephrase this. She's the most fully realized Nintendo character that I can think of off the top of my head. There might be some in Nintendo games I haven't played, but of all the Nintendo games I'm familiar with, like, she's really fully realized. And even though it's kind of a depressing end to her character, like, she has an end point too. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, depressing doesn't necessarily equal bad.
Yeah, honestly, like years later, I kind of appreciate the ending to Twilight Princess a lot more. In fact, don't be surprised if that's the ending to Sigma. If I just rip that off for my own thing, if that's the ending to Sigma. Codeman's gonna have a field day with that statement when he hears it. He's gonna be like, I know what happens to Norin now." No, I really do like the ending to Twilight Princess a lot. Years and years ago, when I was much younger, I was like, "Oh, that's lame that she just like breaks the mirror and goes away forever. That's lame." And now I'm like, yeah, it couldn't have ended. There's no other way it could have ended. The only alternative to that was disaster. In universe, I mean, like if she hadn't have done that, it just would have been another. Like it makes sense she did that.
Yeah.
I could probably do a whole stream on just the Midna stream.
That'd be a good one in the future.
Yeah, but I don't know if if you guys want to do a Midna stream someday.
Character appreciation or character analysis.
Character analysis.
Yeah, there you go.
She's the Queen of Sheba. That's all I need to say, I guess. I don't know if anyone gets that, but yeah, she's the Queen of Sheba. I see someone mentioning they're more of a Hyrule Warriors fellow. Do you mean the Hyrule Warriors games? That's interesting. I know. Actually, yeah, one of the voice actors on my Star Fox, the Kyle who voices Fox, I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure he told me Hyrule Warriors was his favorite Zelda thing. So there's definitely a group of people that like Hyrule Warriors more than the actual Zelda games. I think wasn't Hyrule Warriors the first Zelda game that Codeman played?
Something like that, yeah.
I think Hyrule Warriors was Codeman's introduction to Zelda, which what a weird way to be introduced to Zelda.
That is very bizarre.
I cannot possibly imagine that being like my introduction to Zelda because it's such a weird I don't know, it's such a weird game in relation to the other Zelda games. But yeah, there's definitely a crowd that likes Hyrule Warriors more. I think back in the day, Jim Sterling also said he liked Hyrule Warriors way more, but I haven't been following him in years. I don't know what he's up to. Let's see what else. Neff, have you played the Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask randomizer? I have not.
Oh, I've been doing this I've been playing randomizers so much over the last few months. They're quite fun if you want to mix it up.
I've played Missing Link. I played the Sealed Palace. Actually, I've talked to one of the devs on Sealed Palace. I've played. I haven't finished it, but I played some of Indigo, the version that's out.
Oh, you gotta play, dude. I finished Indigo. You gotta finish it,
I
man. It's
know,
so
I
good.
know. It's pretty cool. I
It
like
is
it. I
so much
got.
fun.
I'm still in the ice place, but I haven't gotten through Indigo. I think at that time, like I'm trying to remember why I stopped, because like I was playing tons of ROM hack stuff, and then I just very suddenly stopped because I think I had to. I don't remember why, but yeah, I'll finish it eventually. I'll definitely finish it when they finish it.
Yeah, Indigo is really good. As well, I do think it's not finished, so I can't rate it as a finished project, but like as it stands, it's probably the most promising one.
I would say it's the most promising of all of them, even though it's not finished. I really like Missing Link though. Like that one just fucking nails it. It nails the feeling of Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask so well. It almost hurts to play it.
I was
But,
gonna say something. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't remember what I was gonna say actually.
I
So I
was
guess
just
you
gonna
go
say
ahead.
in regards to the N64 stuff, I feel like your N64 stuff could have like it has like a lot of potential because there's like a pretty big audience for like Zelda ROM hacks compared to, like a Zelda RTS.
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
feel like it could pick up steam very quickly and become, you know, to the same level as Event Horizon because, there are a lot of like big YouTubers and streamers that play ROM hacks like ZFG and stuff like that. Like I would not be surprised if they got into it if, once the progress on it picks up.
Yeah, that honestly, that's the biggest problem right now is just time. I really don't have time to work on multiple large projects at the same time. Event
Yeah.
Horizon kind of just takes up like almost all my time, as it should. Um, so I don't know when I'd have the chance to really start on this and work on it regularly. At the moment, it's just something I would do every now and again.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone in the audience who's like a pro at working on the N64. Give me a call. Anyone who knows how to get, the models and animations in the game, just give me a call. Maybe we could have a collaborative effort cuz yeah, I don't have the time to do this all by myself right now. My Star Fox stuff I got to focus on. So yeah.
You needed an N64 version of Exodarian.
Yeah. Yeah, I still need Exodarian to finish up some Hyrule Conquest stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna go on with Hyrule Conquest at the moment. Ultra Scarlet is asking, Neff, are you confident in your puzzle and dungeon design? Sort of. I think for the dungeon that I had at the beginning of this video with the sundial in the middle, I think I have a very very good gimmick, for lack of a better term, or a mechanic that it's themed around, and the idea actually originated from the Oracle games. In the Tarm dungeon in the Oracle games, and I think it was in the Tokay dungeon too. There's like these rotating dial things, but they only rotate 90 degrees. So that was the basis for the idea. So the sundials in the temple, they'll do that. They only rotate 90 degrees. But at the same time, every time you rotate them, it switches between daytime and nighttime because it's a sundial. And the both the layout and some of the stuff in the dungeon changes depending whether it's day or night. So on top of keeping track of the 90 degrees that all the dials are turning, you also have to keep track whether it's day or night. And then the item of the dungeon basically makes it sunlight in the dark. It's like a chakram. It's a weapon, but the weapon absorbs light from the sun and it lets you bring sunlight wherever you go. So once you get the dungeon item, it can just be daytime all the time in the dungeon, and it lets you get to like the last few areas you couldn't get to. So I think that's a pretty good mechanic for at least that dungeon.
It reminds me almost of Stone Tower Temple to a degree.
Yeah, except instead of it being flipped upside down and right side up, it's the lights come on and the lights go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, the on like a mathematical kind of level, yeah, I think that's probably a fair comparison. Yeah. So
I think. Oh, sorry, good.
no, I don't want to say like yeah I'm like a pro with dungeons and puzzle design, like I don't want to go that far, but I think I have some pretty good ideas for mechanics for several dungeons. I don't have that many at the moment, but I don't know if I'll have more than like 4 dungeons. I'm probably gonna go smaller scale like Majora's Mask. Maybe 5 dungeons. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe like 4 dungeons in like a mini dungeon, like a boss area, like a Ganon's castle type thing.
Oh yeah, I think we discussed that. Like instead of having a bunch of big dungeons, there's just several large dungeons and then a bunch of really small like mini dungeons, kind of like the ice cavern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that might be an interesting idea to. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out as I work on it more. Right now, I'm just trying to get a handle for the N64. Very
Yeah.
janky console. Lots of strict limitations. Yeah. Someone's asking what a chakram is. A chakram is I believe it has its origins in India, so it's a Hindu kind of weapon. It's like a disc that you throw. It's like a throwing disc. Although if from the 90s, if you're familiar with Xena Warrior Princess, you probably know what the chakram is. Which they're actually, if I remember right, there was a Xena Warrior Princess game on the N64 where you threw the chakrams around. I vaguely remember that game. It was so long ago. But yeah, it functions a lot like the boomerang, but it has the added ability to absorb sunlight, and then you can like carry it into areas where where there's no sunlight. Yeah, someone in the comments mentioned Xena uses them. Yeah, Xena's probably the modern pop culture thing, even though she's like 30 years old now, not really modern anymore. That's probably something people might remember chakrams from. Oh, okay. Sorry, Andrew. I didn't realize you knew what the chakram was. I guess I misunderstood your question. I meant the one you talked about that can contain sunlight. Oh, do you mean where you like who made it in the context of the Zelda games? Or like where? Yeah. Just rephrase your question. I'm not sure I understood it properly. I'm not seeing any more questions, so I guess I'll wait for that one. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or is there anything about the N64 stuff you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, without revealing like too much about it, because I don't know how much you want to reveal, but I feel like between you and the people you've got kind of in your circle, you could definitely come up with some pretty good dungeon ideas to like make them very unique and stuff. I feel like that's something definitely plausible.
Yeah,
Because
like
someone was talking about like how unique, like how like would you be able to do the dungeons? Like they were like the story seems like it would be good, but will the dungeons be good? I feel like we can figure that out.
yeah, I don't want to say like with certainty like yes, I'm like a pro at making dungeons, but I did make a lot of dungeons, back in the day, like 20 years ago. It's been a long time, but
It'll be fine.
it'll be fine. Yeah. Yeah. I
Don't worry
know.
about it.
Don't worry about it. Oh no, Android. Were you saying you thought the chakram was from another Zelda game and then you realized it wasn't? Yeah, I don't think a chakram's ever been in any other Zelda game. At least not that I can think of. Actually, wasn't the chakram your idea, Deox? I
Uh,
think that was your idea.
yeah, it might have been. Yeah.
I think that actually was Deox's idea. I don't know if the sunlight thing was, but I think it was you that suggested using a chakram in the game for something.
It's like almost like yeah. I kind of envision it to be like because the boomerang mechanic is so versatile. It's kind of building on that idea
Yeah.
because it's a very versatile item for designing puzzles
Yeah,
with.
it's basically it's a combination of the boomerang and the light arrows in terms
Yeah.
of its function.
Which is pretty cool. I feel like that's pretty unique.
Yeah. Oh, I see another question. Um, Lord of Creation asks, if you had a chance to bring back a mini boss from any Zelda game back to current days. Well, okay. Like, are you saying like there was a new Zelda game being made and they were gonna bring back a pre-existing mini boss or something? What would I bring back? I mean, I'm not really interested in any new Zelda games anymore, so I really don't care. I don't know, man. Manhandla. Well, Manhandla, I guess, isn't a mini boss. It's like an actual boss. Let me think of other mini bosses. I can't really think of any mini bosses. I was gonna say maybe the Deku Toad, but didn't they? I think they brought those back in the one that just came out, didn't they?
I mean, it's not really a Dekito.
Yeah, it's the Frox thing or whatever. It's not. It doesn't have the eggs or anything, but it's kind of like it a little bit. I like the Deku Toad in Twilight Princess. It's kind of a gross boss. Honestly, like every boss and mini boss in Twilight Princess is pretty cool. When I think about it, I think Twilight Princess has the coolest in air quotes, the coolest roster of bosses and mini bosses as far as like their designs go and like what they are. Like you have the fucking Dark Knight. That thing is awesome.
Oh yeah, the Dark Knight's great.
Freaking the everything in the how come I'm forgetting the tomb dungeon, the desert one. Oh, the Arbiter's Grounds. Yeah, the both the Death Sword and the freaking Stalwart are really awesome. What are some of the other ones? You fucking fight Gorons in Twilight Princess. That's awesome. Can you imagine that in another Zelda game where you have to fight normally non-evil like creatures? Twilight Princess rules.
That game's great.
Like you fight both the mini boss and the boss of the second dungeon are Gorons. That's really cool. Like that's like like it in a normal situation or a normal like any other series that wouldn't seem like a big deal, but like Zelda's so like I'm so starved for just
A regular humanoid.
yeah,
Yeah.
like actual like humanoid sentient enemies that like or like just kind of an implication that like there can be like you can be on the opposing side of like a non-evil organization.
Yeah.
Like yeah, you fight regular Gorons in Twilight Princess too. Like that's awesome. Like imagine a Zelda game where you're fighting like the Zora. Like that'd be really cool. And like they're not like evil. Like just for some reason, you know, you're I guess like in Hyrule Conquest, you know, like you fight the Zora at some point or like I don't know, just that stuff is just completely missing in Zelda games, and it just Twilight Princess has it though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Twilight
remember
Princess
when
is fucking great.
I do remember like when people were, I think in one of the initial trailers they do show Link fighting a Goron, and people are like stoked about that because it was like so weird that we'd fight like regular humanoids that were not demons or monsters.
It's weird in the context of Zelda because Nintendo are fucking cowards. But like in any other series, like I can like in Lord of the Rings, like I can easily imagine a situation where you end up fighting elves and dwarves, even though they're not, you know, the minions of Sauron.
Yeah.
Like, well, in fact, that happens in The Hobbit. The dwarves and the elves and the men of Dale, they're all fighting each other over gold. Like, they're all, like, any normal universe, like, Gorons and Zora would come into conflict with Hylians, you know, sooner or later. So the fact that that's so rare in Zelda is just bizarre. I know why that is. It's because, you know, that we gotta make it kid friendly. Like that's too complicated for normies, I guess. I don't know, but they do it in Twilight Princess. In fact, if you look at the concept art for Twilight Princess, they had plans for the Zora and the Gorons to be at war with each other. That's where the idea in Hyrule Conquest came from. I didn't pull that out of my ass. The whole hostility between Gorons and Zora in Hyrule Conquest, that was not something I made up. That was gonna be in Twilight Princess. So yeah, that's.
I mean,
anyway, sorry. Go on.
That doesn't feel like I don't know if people told you that felt like out of nowhere. Even though like that's not really something that we've seen in the games, that to me felt just like so natural, just because of like the thematic tropes that the Gorons and Zora like are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can easily see them coming into conflict with each other. Just yeah, but that's one thing that's always kind of bothered me about over the years is when people are just like, oh, that shit in your Zelda game would never actually exist in a Zelda game. Like, remember when I first like started showing trailers for Hyrule Total War, and they're like, oh no, there would never be like armies fighting each other in Zelda. Oh, and Hyrule Warriors comes out like 2 years later. I guess armies can fight each other in Zelda games, huh? A lot of the stuff I come up with is not stuff I pull out of my ass. It's based on things that are in Zelda games but were never like built upon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't they talk about like armies and wars and shit and like A Link to the Past? Like
in the opening of A Link to the Past, it shows images of armies fighting each other. Like it's a sprite and they're like just shadows, but yeah, like there's armies fighting at the beginning of A Link to the Past. Like it's like in retrospect, that's just really funny. All the people are like, oh no, armies would never fight in a Zelda game. That's just, no, that's bullshit. And then Hyrule Warriors came out just like 2 years later. So that's really funny in retrospect. Another one that's really given me grief is Agatha and Hylia. Like, Hylia, you know, Deox even pointed out to me, Hylia flat out says in Skyward Sword she's using you, like a tool, basically.
Yeah, like, what the...
Like, she's a fucking, like, she's a manipulator. Like, she's not, like, evil, and in Hyrule Conquest, she's not exactly, like, people have given me so much grief for Hylia that I just don't even want to use her anymore. Same thing with Agatha. It's like, Agatha's obsessed with bugs. Like, of course she would like Goma. Like what? Like, did you guys play Twilight Princess? She's like a weird, like, creepy child that loves bugs, like, and doesn't talk to people, and of course, like, she would probably want to play with the Goma. Like, what the fuck? I don't know. I feel like I'm on a different planet, or like these people didn't actually play Zelda games. I don't know.
Yeah, Age of Calamity 2, yeah. Zero Revolt brought up a good point.
Yeah, I haven't played Age of Calamity yet. I did play Hyrule Warriors, though, and despite my complaints about Hyrule Warriors, I have to admit it's probably the funnest I had with a Zelda game since Twilight Princess.
It's got obviously it's got a lot of issues if you try to take the game seriously, but I just don't take the game seriously and have fun with it, and it's enjoyable.
Oh, yeah, I just remembered in Hyrule Warriors, yeah, Agatha's, like, flying around, like, killing a bunch of monsters. She's pretty violent in Hyrule Warriors.
One of the things that stood out to me about Hyrule Warriors, and we don't have to talk about it too much, but one of the things that stood out to me with that game is they have such a random-ass roster. The roster in that game feels so, like, I don't know, I just remember they would, like, announce DLC for that game and be like, why the like, okay, this is cool, but, like, where the fuck did they get the idea to add this character? Like,
yeah, like Agatha?
Like, Agatha was one of the biggest ones. Marin was another one. I was like,
yeah, Marin is completely out of left field, yeah.
They did show...
I agree with you. It is kind of a weird roster. And, like, how they have, like, most of the stages in Ocarina of Time, but not all of them. That I
Yeah,
thought
like
was
we don't
kind of
have
weird.
Yoguru.
Although in retrospect, I'm glad they didn't ruin Saria in that game. Because you know what they would have
Yeah.
done? They would have turned. They would have done something really dumb with Saria if she was in that game. So, oh yeah, Linkle in the Linkle was kind of random. Someone in the audience mentioned Linkle. Yeah, Demoko mentions that we hit 2 hours without a stream crash. I think we're over 2 hours. Yeah, usually 2 hours, 2.5 hours is a good place to kind of wrap up. Is there any more things you guys want to talk about, or do you want to just wrap up?
We can
I mean,
wrap
I'm
up.
fine to.
Yeah, maybe another time in like a few months we could do another N64 Zelda stream, or I don't know, some other weird thing happens with the quote unquote lore community of Zelda. Maybe we could do another stream.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if anything's gonna come of that, but I definitely feel like a shift in that that community that I'd really like to get in contact with some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if anyone in the audience has a contact or a line to Ratatosker, please get me in contact with him. I'd really like to talk to him. Oh, Milkman asks, who did the Ocarina of Time style artwork? I did. I did my best to emulate Nakano's art style. I don't think I pulled it off, but what do you guys think? Did I pull it off?
I think you did a good job, man. I think
Close enough.
Close
like
enough.
I said.
I showed some of this concept art to some of my friends who are like big time Zelda fans. They're more casual Zelda fans, but they're big Zelda fans. They're like, oh my gosh, like is this from like the N64 book? Like where did where did this come from? And then I was like, no, this is his. And they're like, wow, this looks like it would be like in a 1999 Nintendo magazine or something. I was like, well, I'm sure he would appreciate that.
I appreciate it. That tells me that it's good enough, but you know me, like good enough isn't good enough for me. Like it's got to be just right. And like I can tell just from looking at it that it's not his art. It's someone trying to look like his art. I can just tell. And I'm certain that like other people who are like, you know, really, you know, like real artists, they'll probably look at it and be like, that's not Nakano's art. And the interesting thing about his art is when I was looking through the Ocarina of Time and the Majora's Mask art, his art actually does improve, which is very amusing to me. The Majora's Mask artwork he did is way better than the... Like, if you look at the Ocarina of Time artwork, the lines look like they were done in MS Paint. It's kind of amusing, but then Majora's Mask, it has like nice inked lines, and it looks so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate that the people in the audience who think I pulled it off. That at the end of the day, that's probably what matters. Is if I just came close enough, or like it's good enough to fool most people. But like for me personally, like I can tell it's not his art. I guess I'll ask a few questions and then we'll just call it a night, assuming there are a few questions. Is there any questions either of you two have? Nope.
Not that I haven't already asked.
No, not really.
You guys have any questions for Deox or Ironwolf, or are they all for me? I guess I'll have to wait a few seconds for questions to come in, because I think there's like a 30-second delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see more people saying that it's good enough.
I'll be up to do a more dedicated like project or stream later on. That'd be kind of fun.
For the N64?
Yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah, I might even do like a stream where I'm trying to get the shit on the N64 and you guys can watch it crash.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Loading the room and it's just blank black screen with Japanese text. It's like it's not loading because there's too many polys. Yeah, no, I'm certain it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when I decide to make an N64 game. I don't know if it'll be next year or 10 years from now, but I'm gonna do it at some point. I need to do Star Fox right now because there's a lot of momentum with that. And I really do feel like I need to finish a few things for Hyrule Conquest first. Definitely need to
Yeah.
finish the River Zora. I really feel like if I don't finish the Tweely, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life.
Actually,
I really feel like I have to just force myself to finally make all the Tweely for Hyrule Conquest. I will never forgive myself if I don't have Midna and Hyrule Conquest and all the Tweely. So I'm probably gonna do that first, but maybe not. Mr. Beanie asked, have you heard of Zelda Indigo? Yeah, about, I think like 20 minutes ago I mentioned Indigo. I've played Indigo. It's really good, and I hope he finishes it. It's really good. I played Missing Link. I played Sealed Palace. I played Indigo. What other ones have I played? I know there was another one I played, but I can't remember which one it was. Let me go look on the modding Discord. What was the other one I played? I'm not seeing it. I don't know. There's another one of the big ones I played, but I can't remember what it is for some reason. Let's see what else. Who else? I see a few more questions, but I'm having trouble. Tin Lee has a question for Deox about Fire Emblem.
oh, of course.
Oh shit!
Someone knows you like Fire Emblem. I guess I'll read it. Tin Lee is asking what your thoughts on Fire Emblem Engage are, or do you have no opinion on it?
Very good gameplay. Please, intelligence systems, have someone else write the story. That's pretty much. Like,
Man.
I feel like Engage is sort of like Conquest in that it has probably some of the best gameplay in the franchise. It's just if Three Houses, regardless of your opinion on it, has proven anything, is that the current fan base is more like I'm not saying necessarily that Three Houses story is like necessarily flawless or anything, but it does kind of prove like its popularity prove that the fan base crave better stories, better character writing, and you know, Engage has been doing okay, but it kind of proves that as well that you know, good gameplay is not enough to carry a new Fire Emblem title, and I hope that they realize that they have to focus on better story and character writing as well as world building going forward. And I hope they look at the sales or the success of Three Houses and they see the Engage and they move in that direction, because that's the direction I personally wanted the series to move forward with. That's pretty much my opinion on it.
I've been so mentally checked out of that franchise for like 10 years.
I haven't played a Fire Emblem game since like 2007. So yeah, I'm really behind. I played a Fire Emblem knockoff about a year ago. It was I think it's called Symphony of War, the Nephilim saga. I got halfway through that, and I thought that was okay. I think it was made in RPG Maker too. But yeah, I'm really out of the loop on Fire Emblem. The Fire Emblem games I did play, I really liked the two on the Game Boy Advance,
Yeah.
and then I played. I think it was the one with the woman who like heals from people's blood. I think it was.
A Radiant Dawn, right?
Was it Yeah, I think it was Radiant Dawn. It was either the game on the GameCube or the Wii.
And then on the Wii then.
Yeah, that I never finished that one, but I did play that one, and I liked what I played of it. But that was like 15 years ago now.
Oh jeez.
It's so long ago, and yet it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Let's see what other questions there are. I see a few. Lord of Creation asks, I have a question for you involving Sulcaris and Ganondorf meeting each other. I don't think they'll ever meet each other, sadly. Or maybe not, sadly. I don't think they're going to meet each other. I hope that... sorry if that's not a satisfying answer. No, Han, I'm not going to answer that question. That's a silly question. Freaking no, Han. I should have... yeah. Let's see what other questions are there. Big Mungus asks, what's the most important thing you're looking for in whatever Zelda project comes next? Gameplay expression, enemy variety, a strong defined narrative, or musical identity? I just want it to not be dumb, I guess. I mean, I could say that about Hyrule Conquest also. I think I just want it to feel like something that they actually would have made on the N64. To the extent that that's possible. I know that's not completely impossible because I'm not a Japanese man working for Nintendo in 1999. So it's not going to be perfect, but I'll do what I can. I think that's the most important thing to me. Let's see. Milkman mentions that the Oracle, the Milkman mentions the Oracle games being a spiritual successor to the N64 Zeldas. I actually agree with that. I kind of get the vibe that at the time the Oracle games really were trying to be a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. The problem is there's a bunch of weird, kind of like Tears of the Kingdom in relation to Breath of the Wild. There's a bunch of weird contradictory shit in it that makes that kind of, it kind of is, but kind of isn't. Like the fact that Twin Rova's alive. Like, they died in Ocarina of Time. Like, they made a fucking joke gag out of their death, too. Like, they're dead. Like, they shouldn't be in the Oracle games. But I do agree with you. It feels like those two games are trying to be, like, direct sequels to Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. I think even wasn't Tingle in one of them, too? I know Malin is. Yeah. Oh, actually, I can think of another thing that makes it questionable. It's Impa. Impa in the Oracle games does not really feel like Impa from Ocarina of Time. Otherwise, she really let herself go between games.
Yeah.
Let's see what other questions are there. I think I'll answer like 2 or 3 more questions. What's it like to work with VAs from earlier Star Fox games? Well, at the moment, I've only worked with 2. And the only one I've really worked with very directly is Estelle, which it's been, freaking awesome. Jock Blaney, I haven't really interacted with too much. My kind of interactions with him are a lot more like business. They're more like he's a client. Whereas Estelle, I know Estelle. Like, I talk to her outside of the Star Fox stuff. So yeah, working with both of them has been pretty different, but it's both really positive with both of them. They're both cool. I'm Estelle's biggest fan, so obviously, it was a crazy trip working with her like a year ago when I started working with her. I see people asking if that's Lear. Yeah, that's Lear in the video. That's N64 Lear, which ironically is closer to her original design from 20 years ago. It's like I came full circle almost. Yeah, even Sulcaris went back to being like a shadowy, vague, like, just like a shadow you can't really discern like she was 20 years ago. It's kind of funny how a lot of it went full circle. What other questions are there? I don't think I'm seeing any more questions. If I see one more question, I'll answer it. Otherwise, I think now's a really good time to wrap up. Deox is probably already half asleep.
Just slightly.
Just slightly. Yeah, Ironwolf, I know you're in a later time zone too, so you might be sleepy. I don't know, but
It's okay. I have to write a research paper on the fall of Constantinople after this, so I'm not excited to go back to that. But
perfect. Funnily enough, I have a character in not on the screen now, but in a character design from the N64 Zelda game that's based on Byzantine Byzantine clothing or whatever, and I might have
let's go.
I might have considered the civilization they come from being inspired by the fall of the Byzantines. So that's interesting that you bring that up.
That would be a good choice.
Also, on the subject of Byzantines, I got the DLC for Age of Empires 4 with the Byzantines, but I haven't played it yet.
Oh, nice. I've been playing.
Funnily enough, they have the aqueducts that I wanted for the Zora and Hyrule Conquest.
Yes, they do.
Maybe I should just port Hyrule Conquest to Age of Empires 4.
Port it over again.
Port it again, yeah, port it to Age of Empires 4. Nah, I'm not gonna do that. But I saw that and I'm like, that's what I originally wanted for the Zora, was those aqueducts, and they did it in Age of Empires. And for the Mongols, they did what I wanted for the Moblins too. I don't know, maybe they looked at Hyrule Conquest. I don't know. That'd be cool.
That would be pretty.
Age of Empires 4 inspired by Hyrule Conquest. That would be cool. I do really like Age of Empires 4. I like it a lot.
It is a very good one.
I think it just needs a little more content. It was content dry at launch.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, but like it just I think there was only 7 or 8 factions at launch, which isn't a small amount. That's actually more than a lot of modern RTS games, but yeah. They could have used a few more at launch.
That's actually why I didn't play it, because same reason. But I recently got back into it because of the new expansion. So
I really like the documentary style campaign. It's really cool.
it is. It is very cool.
I really like that. That's kind of what I wanted in Age of Empires 2 and 3. But yeah, I'm tempted to say I actually like Age of Empires 4 more than 2, even though I constantly play Age of Empires 2 since 2001.
Mm-hmm.
0 Volts is ported to StarCraft. I do like StarCraft a lot. Actually, if anyone who really likes the first StarCraft, there is a game on Steam right now. I think it's called Five Nations. That's really good. It's very much like the original StarCraft, even though it's like kind of its own thing. I'd recommend that game. I actually think one of the voice actors in Event Horizon is one of the voice actors in that game too, so that's cool. In an alternate universe, Hyrule Total War would have been a Total War Warhammer mod. Probably, yeah. If the engine was moddable, yeah, it might have been. Anyway, I think that's a good point to wrap up. So, yeah, just at 2.5 hours, the perfect length. All right, well, thank you, two, for joining me. That was a bit of fun.
Of course.
Yeah, it was fun.
I guess next time, yeah, we'll talk about more N64 stuff. Yeah, Iron, there's the Byzantine design there. The shadowy whatever.
Oh, yeah.
The headpiece specifically. It was designed to kind of evoke like the Byzantine crowns.
Okay. Yeah. I can definitely see that.
But yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you everyone in the audience for listening. We actually had a pretty big audience today, considering we didn't have a heavy hitter like Gafford or Estelle on.
Yeah.
So where's the button to end the stream? There it is, end stream. All right, bye everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.
Peace.